Hello, dear viewers. Are you ready? I have it right here. So we have a swishy. Said ah. We have a Tecto. Tycade striking Turkey straight through the fourth wall. God damn. Look at you guys. We have a Tycade, of course. Who apparently held hands, watched the world burn. Well, interesting you say things like that. Because if I remember correctly, this is a story about a society that once burned and went down a completely different path to Star Trek. Very, very different. I might actually use the old storytime thing. Hopefully the music's okay. It's an old track. So apparently I do actually have story music. It's just, I don't know if it fares well in this day and age. So after we do the usual, the brewing of the tea, we shall be reading our book, which is right here. But first, we go to just chatting. Hi. Welcome, welcome, welcome all. I am Tyroki, glorious villain, and I do what I want. And what I want right now is specifically to get to deal with a goal. There's a goal right there at 450. Starship Troopers. We will be reading it. That's right. In this glorious tone. Lower. Lower. Alright, let's get the show on the road. Get this boiled up. Everything else is prepared and ready to go, if I recall correctly. Mans must take his pills, because he keeps forgetting. We need our gut in the best position possible. These are very important pills. That's right. That's right. Take your pills, old man. I should make a redeem. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's one drink down. Now, where are we? Let me bring this open. Do we need music for this part? I mean, music is good for pretty much all parts. But I mean, the whole point of the start of these streams right now is to literally boil myself, you know, water and then pour the tea, which was the prepare tea each stream at the top. Or at least until the flatmates get so sick of it that I either have to go and buy a new teapot, not teapot, buy a new hot water jug, or this setup that we have at the moment works. I have no idea. Usually my brother would be out, we'd be going to work, but he hasn't been lately. So, yes, he seems to want morning coffee at a time when he'd normally be at work. So I don't know what's going on there, but that's fine. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, just as a reminder, we are in fact running a donathon. The donathon still has 13 hours to go. Does it really? Or did that change? Because it's changed almost every stream. Let me go check. Because I don't believe it. It's hard to believe something that has, you know, it's lied to. It literally reset to 0 a whole bunch of times. So let me just go be absolutely sure. Nope, that's today's one. I need yesterday's one. Yes, please send me into that. Thank you. Excellent. Good, sure. If I go to the end, no, yeah, my gods, it actually maintained this time. Brilliant. Well, don't have to worry about that then. Now, yes. So I went to D&D last night, except it wasn't D&D. This is a D&D that's held rather infrequently because everybody's busy. Setting up is hard. etc. We go play at the library. One of the archivists is the one running it. They get paid to run it. That's what's funny. But she's burnt out. We've been playing the Ethereal Expanse, and she hasn't been able to catch up with her prep because, well, she's also running an entire West Marches, amongst other things. And she wanted to do something a little different, so we're doing a Monster of the Week in a camp setting, which is interesting because we are going to play the camp counselors. You know, we're all just out, you know, like just out of school, coming in to volunteer to help with the camp. You know, we got to help set up the camp, so it's kind of weird. You know, it's weird. Someone's like, oh, you know, there'll be an offal pit in the middle, you know, and it'll have like a cover that goes on, you know, and obviously it comes off and then you throw things in. But why do we need an offal pit in the middle? Well, that kind of got built up. There's, you know, the place is swarming with squirrels and apparently guinea pigs. And at night, the squirrels and guinea pigs go full-blown feral. Like, they go angry, they go... Yeah, so everybody has to kind of be locked in. So all of the cabins have bars on the windows and locks on the doors. They're all on stilts, basically. The mess hall is hanging off a giant redwood tree. And it swings just a little infrequently, you know, like a little bit off every time. We have the chef was replaced by someone, you know, someone new, except no one really knows who the new guy is because the kitchen has one of those, like, one of those glass windows that's you can see the silhouette and that's about it, and he keeps the door locked. And then there's like a thing where you can put the food under. No one shifts like Gaston exactly. Ooh. And then we had the groundskeeper. The groundskeeper was replaced, and then I rolled to do something to with the groundskeeper. I had to as part of my story. Or as part of the story of how one of the other counselors sees me. They saw me do my spooky powers because I was the spooky, and for vindictive reasons. And it was to the groundskeeper, and I said, how about it be the previous groundskeeper instead of the new one, because they wanted it to be the new one. I was like, the old one's better. And between the DM and I, we kind of worked out, okay, I probably did a big spell, which is something you can do normally without needing to be the spooky. It just requires work and some weird. And I, in the past, have turned the previous groundskeeper into a guinea pig. So I keep that guinea pig with me as a sort of pet because I couldn't figure out how to turn him back. It was supposed to be a joke, but also, you know, like, just angry at him. And so now I've got a talking guinea pig that I keep in a little cage. God damn it. And it's supposed to be like the old TV shows like Buffy and Supernatural and all that kind of thing. So when I chose the spooky, my first thought was Willow from Buffy, because, well, especially Dark Willow, man, I freaking Dark Willow. Oh, you know, funnily enough, I had the biggest goddamn crush on that character when I was younger. Oh yeah, there we go. There's the honeyed water. Tell me the guinea pig has Gilbert Gottfried's voice. Well, the funny thing is, technically we're all actors, so it's entirely possible that I'm gonna try and remember that if I can. The idea the guinea pig has Gilbert Gottfried's voice is just entertaining. I love that. You know what? Actually, I'm and my character's name is Sabrina, and yes, she was named after the TV show, aka Sabrina the Teenage Witch, except her spooky powers came in later, which just was icing on the cake. Okay, something from wait, no, okay, suggestion from stream. The old groundskeeper, now turned pet guinea guinea pig, has the voice of Gilbert Gottfried. Wolfie, how you doing, Wolfie? So it was said, so it shall be. This is amazing. See, we haven't even had a proposition, right? This is session 0, creating the characters and stuff. And this is to give the DM a break, but man, we came up with some stupid shit, and it is gonna be great. Oh lolo, I'm going to bed. What happened? Oh, I was just telling the story that so our infrequent D&D has been kind of shifted from the ethereal expanse for now, because the DM is kind of burnt out and they've got to try and catch up on prep. So we're doing a monster of the week, which is it's a weird system, but it's not that hard to understand. And it's we you know, it's a 2d6 system, but it's going to be interesting because my character is the Spooky. That's the name of their class, named Sabrina, based on Sabrina the Teenage Witch, long before her powers came in. So it just added icing to the cake. And she's a camp counselor. She is 17, played by a 20-year-old actress. And she goes to the camp because A, her parents want her there, and B, she doesn't want to be at home. So it's kind of a mutually beneficial thing. Her powers, she can do it, you know, she can use her powers, she can do magic, she can do, you know, shenanigans, she can do spooky things. She can read minds, she can jinx people, and she can see the invisible, like ghosts and stuff like that. Yes, I could have hexed, I could have done some other things, but I kind of thought this was the most entertaining. The camp is swarming with squirrels and guinea pigs that at night turn feral. We've got a huge lake that's filled with monster koi. All of the koi are basically as aggressive as crocodiles, and they do in fact come up on land. So people have to be careful of the koi. We have a camp legend of one of the people, one of the kids, was dared to ride one of these meat-eating koi, and did so successfully and got back to shore. So that's a thing. Gonna go to sleep almost midnight. Well, I'm going to be reading a book, so if you need to be read to sleep, well, this is the stream. We're reading Starship Troopers. But yeah, just it's so silly. It's so silly, and I love what we've got. I love that one of the other players, they chose The Chosen, except Oh, okay. I'm going to just put my gate back on. There we are. That gets rid of most of that noise. Oh, that will just make it harder to sleep, but thank you. Good night. See you tomorrow for Mage. Yes, more stories for stream. Also, I just love playing it. I really do. Ooh, I'm getting a response from the DM about the guild. I will do my best. You don't have to talk like Gilbert. This is just his voice. This is great. But what else do we have? So we've got the offal pit, and 3 times. So camp is like 6 weeks, right? So at the start of each tri section, so it's got like the camp is split into three sections, and at the beginning of each of those sections of time, right, there's an event, the hunt, where we go out and cull and you know help the state cull the guinea pigs. But the funny part is, there's also, as part of kind of our joking, because we went around in circles rolling dice and deciding what gets added, what gets changed, all of that jazz. And the squirrels and the guinea pigs are at war. So this is, during the day there is peace, but at night there is war. It's really silly. We've got there's in the middle of the lake there's an island, and whenever people go to the island they come back fully cured of whatever ailment they had. Like a kid went there wearing glasses, they came back not needing glasses. Another one went with a very broken leg, came back no cast and just walking around like it was nothing. There's apparently a lake within that island with a waterfall, and nobody knows if it actually has healing properties or what. All you know is that if one person goes to that lake, and they will come back healed of all ailments, but we don't know how. We don't know if it's magic. We don't know if it's invasion of the body snatchers. We have no idea. No idea. No one got that far. It is mystical. It is spooky. The entire area has is regularly it regularly has a mist that hangs. We have so we've got the lake, we've got the camp, and then we've got a river that comes around the camp with a rickety like rope suspension-y bridge that goes over it. We've got a hill with a cave. We've got another cave behind the waterfall on the island. We've got and we just kept adding things, and the DMs just listed it all down. And then, what will happen is we will start having to deal with all kinds of monsters. And the vibe that we've got overall is like a historical landmark that's not always been there, but it's always been there. You know what I mean? Like, it's Camp Mysticoi now, but it was Camp Koi, it was Camp Histakoi, it was, there's a whole bunch of different camps that have been in the site. Ours is just the most, it's the most recent, but all of the buildings are old, bar one, which is the gate. The gate is brand new. And the staff room, we have a staff room, if people remember it's there. you know, we've got all those kinds of stuff. Like we took from all sorts. We took from Gravity Falls. We took from frickin' Buffy the Vampire Slayer's Supernatural. We took from I think we took a little from Charmed. We just took from all those old things, and it's created something that, good luck to the DM, because this is gonna be nuts. This is gonna be amazing in the best possible ways. Now, with everything poured out, let me quickly take the thing back to the kitchen so I don't get yelled at. Or barked at or any of the sort. Everything's poured out. Yep. One moment. And then we... Okay, let's do this, shall we? Alright, everybody. Are you all ready for a book? For a story? Let's get into it, shall we? Right, let me go to story time. There we go. That should be mic working. Ba 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 ba. Oh, that's loud. Ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Yep, that should be good. Okay, good. Bring the music down just a little bit more. It should only be in the background. Shouldn't be that loud. Okay, we got all the things. All the things are ready. Let's go with the sippy cup. I'm gonna need a lot of water. And as you may notice... Oh! Wait, what? Hold up, let me read back. Wolfie's been busy with a mech-friendly TTRPG run just recently. I wanna be part of a mech-friendly TTRPG run? Man! I suppose I'll send her a message quickly before we get started. Okay. Okay. That is done. Right, are we moving? Are we things in the place? Are we good? We appear to be. I can't think of anything else we need to change, so let's get to it. All right. So this is all of the quotes from various people. Books by Robert A. Heinlein. Starship Troopers. Here's the acknowledgements page, and here's all the copyright page. Okay. That is a terrible place for the light. I do. Ooh. Hang on. I have something for this. Come here. It's been a long time. It's been a long time since I've read a book on stream. so you'll have to bear with me a little. But the overhead won't cut it given where I am. Alright. Move the mouse there. We shouldn't need it too much. Okay. Okay. Page 1. Chapter 1. I always get the shakes. Wait, hold up. Ah, chapter 1. Come on, you apes. You wanna live forever? Unknown platoon sergeant, 1918. 1918, bloody hell. It's the far-flung future, except it's really not. I always get the shakes before a drop. I've had the injections, of course, and hypnotic preparation, and it stands to reason that I can't really be afraid. The ship's psychiatrist has checked my brainwaves and asked me silly questions while I was asleep. And he tells me that it isn't fear, it isn't anything important. It's just like the trembling of an eager racehorse in the starting gate. I couldn't say about that. I've never been a racehorse. The fact is, I'm scared silly every time. At D-30, after we've mustered in the drop room of the Roger Young, our platoon leader inspected us. It wasn't our regular platoon leader, because Lieutenant Rashak had bought it on our last drop. He was really the platoon sergeant, career ship Sergeant Jalal. Jelly was a Finno-Turk from Iskander, around Proxima, a swarthy little man who looked like a clerk. I've seen him tackle 2 berserk privates so big he had to reach up to grab them. Fresh book, haven't opened. Crack their heads together like coconuts. Step back out of the way while they fell. Off duty, he wasn't bad for a sergeant. You could even call him jelly to his face. Not recruits, of course, but anybody who had made at least 1 combat drop. But right now, he was on duty. We had all each inspected our combat equipment. Look, it's your own neck, see? The acting platoon sergeant had gone over us carefully after he mustered us. Now Jelly went over us again, his face mean, his eyes missing nothing. He stopped by the man in front of me, pressed the button on his belt that gave readings on his physicals. Fallout! But Sarge, it's just a cold, the surgeon said. Jelly interrupted. But Sarge, he snapped. The sergeant ain't making no drop, and neither are you, with a 1.5 degree fever. You think I got time to chat with you just before a drop? Fall out. Jenkins left us, looking sad and mad. And I felt bad too. Because of the lieutenant buying it, last drop, and people moving up, I was assistant section leader. Second section, this drop, and now I was going to have a hole in my section and no way to fill it. That's not good. It means a man can run into something sticky, call for help, and have nobody to help him. Jelly didn't down-check anybody else. Presently, he stepped out in front of us, looked us over, and shook his head sadly. What a gang of apes, he growled. Maybe if you'd all buy at this drop, they could start over and build the kind of outfit the lieutenant expected you to be. Probably not with the sort of recruits we get these days. He suddenly straightened up, shouted, I just want to remind you apes that each and every one of you has cost the government, counting weapons, armor, ammo, instrumentation, and training, everything, including the way you overeat, has cost on the hoof better than $500,000. And in the 30 cents you're actually worth, That runs to quite a sum, he glared at us. So bring it back. We can spare you, but we can't spare that fancy suit you're wearing. I don't want any heroes in this outfit. The lieutenant wouldn't like it. You got a job to do. You go down, you do it. You keep your ears open for a call. You show up for retrieval on the bounce and by the numbers. Get me? He glared again. You're supposed to know the plan, but some of you ain't got any minds to hypnotize, so I'll sketch it out. You'll be dropped in 2 skirmish lines, calculated 2,000-yard intervals. Get your bearing on me as soon as you hit. Get your bearing and distance on your squad mates, both sides, while you take cover. You've wasted 10 seconds already, so you smash and destroy whatever's at hand until the flankers hit dirt. He was talking about me as assistant section leader. I was going to be left flanker with nobody at my elbow. I began to tremble. Once they hit, straighten out those lines. Equalize those intervals. Drop what you're doing and do it. 12 seconds. Then advance by leapfrog, odd and even. Assistant section leaders minding the count and guiding the envelopment. He looked at me. If you've done this properly, which I doubt, the flanks will make contact as recall sounds. At which time, home you go. Any questions? There weren't any. There never were. He went on. One more word. This is just a raid, not a battle. It's a demonstration of firepower and frightfulness. Our mission is to let the enemy know that we could have destroyed their city, but didn't. That they aren't safe even though we refrain from total bombing. You'll take no prisoners. You'll kill only when you can't help it. The entire area we hit is to be smashed. I don't want to see any of you loafers back aboard here with unexpended bombs. Get me? He glanced at the time. Rashik's roughnecks have got a reputation to uphold. The lieutenant told me before he boarded to tell you that he will always have his eye on you every minute, and that he expects your names to shine. Jelly glanced over at Sergeant Magliaccio. Magliaccio? Yeah, Kyo? Magliaccio? Chio. Magliaccio. First section leader. 5 minutes for the Padre, he stated. Some of the boys dropped out of ranks, went over and knelt in front of Magliaccio. But not necessarily those of his creed either. Muslims, Christians, Gnostics, Jews. Whoever wanted a word with him before a drop, he was there. I've heard tell that there used to be military outfits whose chaplains did not fight alongside the others. But I've never been able to see how that could work. I mean, how can a chaplain bless anything he's not willing to do himself? In any case, in the mobile infantry, everybody drops and everybody fights. Chaplain and cook and the old man's rider. Once we went down the tube, there wouldn't be a roughneck left aboard, except Jenkins, of course, and that's not his fault. I didn't go over. I was always afraid somebody would see me shake if I did. And anyhow, the Padre could bless me just as handily from where he was. He came over to me as the last straggler stood up and pressed his helmet against mine to speak privately. Johnny, he said quietly, this is your first drop as a non-com. Yeah, wasn't really a non-com any more than Jelly was really an officer. Just this, Johnny. Don't buy a farm. Know your job. Do it. Just do it. Don't try to win a medal. Thanks, Padre. I shan't. He added something gently in a language I don't know, patted me on the shoulder, and hurried back to his section. Jelly called out, 10, shut! And we all snapped to. Platoon! Section! Magliaccio and Johnson echoed. By sections, port and starboard. Starboard. Prepare for drop. Section! Man your capsules. Move! Squad. I had to wait until while squads 4 and 5 manned their capsules and moved on down the firing tube before my capsule showed up on the port track and I could climb into it. I wondered if those old timers got the shakes as they climbed into the Trojan horse. Or was it just me? Jelly checked each man as he was sealed in, and he sealed in me in himself. As he did so, he leaned toward me and said, "Don't goof off, Johnny. This is just like a drill." The top closed on me and I was alone. Just like a, no, and I was just like a drill, he says. I began to shake uncontrollably. Then in my earphones I heard Jelly from the centerline tube. "Bridge, Rashek's roughnecks, ready for drop." 17 seconds, Lieutenant, I heard the ship captain's cheerful contralto replying, and resented her calling Jelly Lieutenant. To be sure, our lieutenant was dead. Maybe Jelly would get his commission, but we were still Rashek's roughnecks. She added, "Good luck, boys." "Thanks, Captain." "Brace yourselves. 5 seconds. I was strapped all over. Belly, forehead, shins. But I shook worse than ever. It's better after you unload. Until you do, you sit there in total darkness, wrapped like a mummy against the acceleration, barely able to breathe. And knowing that there is just nitrogen around you in the capsule, even if you could get your helmet open, which you can't, and knowing that the capsule is surrounded by the firing tube anyhow, and if the ship gets hit before they fire you, you haven't got a prayer. You'll just die there, unable to move, helpless. It's that endless weight in the dark that causes the shakes. Thinking that they've forgotten you. The ship has been hulled and stayed in orbit dead, and soon you'll buy it too. Unable to move, choking. Or it's a crash orbit and you'll buy it that way if you don't roast on the way down. Then the ship's braking program hit us and I stopped shaking. 8 Gs, I would say, or maybe 10. When a female pilot handles a ship, there's nothing comfortable about it. You're gonna have bruises every place you've strapped. Yes, I know they make better pilots than men do. Their reactions are faster, and they can tolerate more G. They can get in faster, get out faster, and thereby improve everybody's chances, yours as well as theirs. That still doesn't make it fun to be slammed against your spine at 10 times your proper weight. But I must admit that Captain Deladria knows her trade. There was no fiddling around once the Roger Young stopped braking. At once I heard her snap, "Central line tube, fire!" And there were 2 recoil bumps as Jelly and his acting platoon sergeant unloaded, and immediately, "Port and starboard tubes, automatic fire!" And the rest of us started to unload. Huh. Just gonna stop there a moment. Just a thought. You know the movie, they go in via dropships, right? This is more like Helldivers. Hell, this is more like Imperial Guard in 40K. You go down in frickin' pods. So these are more like bullets. So this is where Helldivers got it. They got it from the book. All right, return to book. Bump, and your capsule jerks ahead one place. Bump, and it jerks again, precisely like cartridges feeding into the chamber of an old-style automatic weapon. Well, that's just what we were. Only the barrels of the gun were twin launching tubes built into a spaceship troop carrier, and each cartridge was a capsule big enough, just barely, to hold an infantryman with all field equipment. Wait, spaceship troop carrier? Right, so you've got your big ship, and then you've got your drop ship, and then the drop ship shoots all the people. I'm a little confused, but I'm sure we'll get there. Bump. I was used to number 3 spot, out early. Now I was tail end Charlie, last out after 3 squads. It makes a tedious wait, even with the capsule being fired every second. I tried to count the bumps. Bump 12, bump 13, bump 14, with an odd sound to it. The empty one Jenkins should have been in. bump, and clang. It's my turn as my capsule slams into the firing chamber. And whambo! The explosion hits with a force that makes the captain's braking maneuver feel like a love tap. Then suddenly, nothing. Nothing at all. No sound. No pressure. No weight. Floating in darkness. Freefall, maybe 30 miles up, above the effective atmosphere, falling weightlessly toward the surface of a planet you've never seen. But I'm not shaking now. It's the weight beforehand that wears. Once you unload, you can't get hurt. Because if anything goes wrong, it'll happen so fast that you'll buy it without noticing that you're dead. Hardly. Almost at once, I felt the capsule twist and sway and steady down so that my weight was on my back. Weight that built up quickly until I was at my full weight. 0.87 G, so we had been told. For that planet, as the capsule reached terminal velocity for the thin upper atmosphere. A pilot who is a real artist, and the captain was, will approach and brake so that your launching speed as you shoot out of the tube places you just dead in space relative to the rotational speed of the planet at the latitude. The loaded capsules are heavy. They punch through the high, thin winds of the upper atmosphere without being blown too far out of position. Just the same, a platoon is bound to disperse on the way down, lose some of the perfect formation in which it unloads. A sloppy pilot can make this still worse. Scatter a strike group over so much terrain that they can't make it rendezvous for retrieval. That it can't make rendezvous, much less carry out its mission. An infantryman can fight only if somebody else delivers him to a zone. In a way, I suppose pilots are just as essential as we are. I could tell from the gentle way my capsule entered the atmosphere that the captain had laid us down with as near zero lateral vector as you could ask for. I felt happy. Not only a tight formation when we hit and no time wasted, but also a pilot who puts you down properly is a pilot who is smart and precise on retrieval. The outer shell burned away and sloughed off unevenly before I tumbled. Then the rest of it went and I straightened out. The turbulence brakes of the second shell bit in, and the ride got rough. It's still rougher as they burned off one at a time, and the second shell began to go to pieces. One of the things that helps a capsule trooper to live long enough to draw a pension is that the skins peeling off his capsule not only slow him down, they also fill the sky over the target area with so much junk that radar picks up reflections from dozens of targets for each man in the drop. Any one of which could be a man, or a bomb, or anything. It's enough to give a ballistic computer nervous breakdowns. And it does. Hey, Cole. This is a reading thing. Absolutely cannot stay here. I don't have the soda to stay awake. Your voice works too well for soothing. Enjoy the story. Thanks for being here, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's a reading. It's not a watch-along. To add to the fun, your ship lays a series of dummy eggs in the seconds immediately following your drop. Dummies that will fall faster because they don't slough. They get under you, explode, throw out window, even operate as transponders, rocket sideways, and do other things to add to the confusion of your reception committee on the ground. In the meantime, your ship is locked firmly on the directional beacon of your platoon leader, ignoring the radar noise it has created and following you in, computing your impact for future use. When the second shell was gone, the third shell automatically opened my first ribbon shoot. It didn't last long, but it wasn't expected to. One good, hard jerk at several G, and it went its way, and I went mine. Second shoot lasted a little bit longer, and the third shoot lasted quite a while. It began to be rather too warm inside the capsule, and I started thinking about landing. The third shell peeled off when its last shoot was gone, and now I had nothing around me but my suit armor and a plastic egg. I was still strapped inside, unable to move. It was time to decide how and where I was going to ground. Without moving my arms, I couldn't. I thumbed the switch for a proximity reading and read it when it flashed on in the instrument reflector inside my helmet in front of my forehead. 1 mile and 8/10. A little closer than I liked, especially without company. The inner egg had reached steady speed. No more help to be gained by staying inside it, and its skin temperature indicated that it would not open automatically for a while yet. So I flipped the switch with my other thumb and got rid of it. The first charge cut all the straps. The second charge exploded the plastic egg away from me in 8 separate pieces. And I was outdoors, sitting on air, and could see. Better still, the 8 discarded pieces were metal-coated, except for the small bit I had taken proximity reading through, and would give back the same reflection as an armored man. Any radar viewer, alive or cybernetic, would now have a sad time sorting me out from the junk nearest me. Not to mention the thousands of other bits and pieces for miles on each side, above and below me. Part of a mobile infantryman's training is to let him see, from the ground and both by eye and by radar, just how confusing a drop is to the forces on the ground. Because you feel awful naked up there, it's easy to panic and either open a chute too soon or become a sitting duck. Do ducks really sit? If so, why? Or fail to open it and break your ankles, likewise backbone and skull. So I stretched, getting the kinks out, and looked around, and doubled up again and straightened out in a swan dive face down, and took a good look. It was night down there as planned, but infrared snoopers let you size up terrain quite well after you're used to them. The river that cut diagonally through the city was almost below me and coming up fast, shining out clearly with a high temperature than the land. I didn't care which side of it I landed on. I didn't want to land in it. It would slow me down. I noticed a flash off to the right at about my altitude. Some unfriendly native down below had burned what was probably a piece of my egg. So I fired my first shoot at once, intending if possible to jerk myself right off his screen as he followed the targets down in closing range. I braced for the shock, rode it, and floated down for about 20 seconds before unloading the chute, not wishing to call attention to myself in still another way by not falling at the speed of the other stuff around me. It must have worked. I wasn't burned. About 600 feet up, I shot the second chute. Saw very quickly that I was being carried over into the river. Found that I was going to pass about 100 feet up over a flat-roofed warehouse or some such by the river. Blew the chute free and came in for a good enough, if rather bouncy, landing on the roof by means of the suit's jump jets. I was scanning for Sergeant Jalal's beacon as I hit, and found that I was on the wrong side of the river. Jelly's star showed up on the compass ring inside my helmet, far south of where it should have been. It was too far north. I trotted toward the river side of the roof as I took a range, and bearing on the squad leader next to me, found that he was over a mile out of position. Called, "Ace, dress your line." Tossed a bomb behind me as I stepped off the building and across the river. Ace answered as I could have expected. Ace should have had my spot, but he didn't want to give up his squad. Nevertheless, he didn't fancy taking orders from me. The warehouse went up behind me and the blast hit me while I was still over the river, instead of being shielded by the buildings on the far side as I should have been. It darn near tumbled my gyros and I came close to tumbling myself. I'd set that bomb for 15 seconds, or had I? I suddenly realized that I'd let myself get excited. The worst thing you can do once you're on the ground. Just like a drill, that was the way. Just as Jelly had warned me. Take your time, do it right. Even if it takes another half second. As I hit, I took another reading on Ace, and told him again to relight his squad. He didn't answer, but he was already doing it. I let it ride. As long as Ace did his job, I could afford to swallow his surliness for now. But back aboard ship, if Jelly kept me on as assistant section leader, we would eventually have to pick a quiet spot and find out who was boss. He was a career corporal, and I was just a term lance acting as corporal. But he was under me, and you can't afford to take any lip under those circumstances. Not permanently. But I didn't have time then to think about it. While I was jumping the river, I had spotted a juicy target and I wanted to get to it before somebody else noticed it. A lovely big group of what looked like public buildings on a hill. Temples, maybe? Or a palace? They were miles outside the area we were sweeping, but one rule of a smash and run is to expend at least half your ammo outside your sweep area. That way the enemies kept confused as to where you actually are. That and keep moving. Do everything fast. You're always heavily outnumbered. Surprise and speed are what saves you. I was already reloading my rocket launcher while I was checking on Ace and telling him for a second time to straighten up. Jelly's voice reached me right on top of that on the all-hands circuit. Platoon, by leapfrog, forward. My boss, Sergeant Johnson, echoed, by leapfrog, odd numbers, advance. That left me with nothing to worry about for 20 seconds. So I jumped up on the building nearest me, raised my launcher to my shoulder, found the target, pulled the first trigger to let the rocket have a look at its target. Pulled the second trigger and kissed it on its way. Jumped back to the ground. Second section, even numbers, I called out, waited for the count in my mind and ordered advance. And did so myself. Hopping over the next row of buildings, and while I was in the air, fanning the first row by the river front with a hand flamer. They seemed to be wood construction, and it looked like time to start a good fire. With luck, some of those warehouses would house oil products or even explosives. As I hit, the Y rack on my shoulders launched two small high-explosive bombs, a couple 100 yards each way to my right and left flanks. But I never saw what they did just then, just then my first rocket hit. That unmistakable, if you've ever seen one, brilliance of an atomic explosion. It was just a peewee, of course. Less than 2 kilotons normal yield, with tamper and implosion squeeze to produce results from a less than critical mass. But then who wants to be bunkmates with a cosmic catastrophe? It was enough to clean off that hilltop and make everybody in the city take shelter against fallout. Better still, any of the local yokels who happen to be outdoors and looking that way wouldn't be seeing anything else for a couple of hours. Meaning me. The flash hadn't dazzled me, nor would it dazzle any of us. Our face balls are heavily leaded. We wear snoopers over our eyes, and we're trained to duck and take it on the armor if we do happen to be looking the wrong way. So I merely blinked hard, opened my eyes, and stared straight at a local citizen just coming out of an opening in the building ahead of me. He looked at me. I looked at him, and he started to raise something. A weapon, I suppose, as Jelly called out, odd numbers, advance. I didn't have time to fool with him. I was a good 500 yards short of where I should have been by then. I still had the hand flamer to my left in my left hand. I toasted him and jumped over the building he had been coming out of. As I started to count, a hand flamer is primarily for incendiary work, but it is a good defensive anti-personnel weapon in tight quarters. You don't have to aim it much. Between excitement and anxiety to catch up, jump too high and too wide. It's always a temptation to get the most out of your jump gear, but don't do it. It leaves you hanging in the air for seconds, a big fat target. The way to advance is to skim over each building as you come to it, barely clearing it, and taking full advantage of cover while you're down. Never stay in one place more than a second or two, and never give them time to target in on you. Be somewhere else. anywhere. Keep moving. This one I goofed. Too much for one row of buildings, too little for the row beyond it. I found myself coming down on a roof, but not a nice flat one where I might have tarried 3 seconds to launch another Pee-wee rocket. Pee-wee A rocket. This roof was a jungle of pipes and stanchions, assorted ironmongery, a factory maybe, or some sort of chemical works. No place to land. Worse still, half a dozen natives were up there. These geezers are humanoid, 8 or 9 feet tall, much skinnier than we are, with a higher body temperature. They don't wear any clothes, and they stand out in a set of snoopers like a neon sign. They look still funnier in daylight with your bare eyes, but I'd rather fight them than the arachnids. Those bugs make me queasy. If these laddies were up there 30 seconds earlier when my rocket hit, then they couldn't see me or anything. But I couldn't be certain. I didn't want to tangle with them in any case. It wasn't that kind of a raid. So I jumped again while I was still in the air, scattering a handful of 10-second fire pills to keep them busy. Grounded, jumped again at once and called out, "Second section, even numbers, advance!" And kept right on going to close the gap, while trying to spot every time I jumped something worth expending a rocket on. I had 3 more of the little A rockets, and I certainly didn't intend to take any back with me. But I'd had it pounded into me that you must get your money's worth with atomic weapons. It was only the second time that I'd been allowed to carry them. Right now, I was trying to spot their waterworks. A direct hit on it would make the whole city uninhabitable. Force them to evacuate it without directly killing anyone. Just the sort of nuisance which had been sent down to commit. It should, according to the map we'd studied under hypnosis, been about 3 miles upstream from where I was, but I couldn't see it. My jumps didn't take me high enough, maybe. I was tempted to go higher, but I remember what Magliaccio had said about not trying for a medal, and stuck to doctrine. I set the Wyrack launcher on automatic, let it lob a couple of little bombs every time I hit. I set fire to things more or less at random in between, and tried to find the waterworks or some other worthwhile target. Well, there was something up there at the proper range, waterworks or whatever. It was big. So I hopped on top of the tallest building near me, took a bead on it, and let fly. As I bounced down, I heard Jelly, "Johnny, Reds, start bending in the flanks." I acknowledged and heard Red acknowledge, and switched to my beacon to blinker so that Red could pick me out for certain. Took a range and bearing on his blinker while I called out, "Second section, curve in an envelope. Squad leaders acknowledge." 4th and 5th squads answered, "Wilco." A said, "We're already doing it. Pick up your feet." Red's beacon showed the right flank to be almost ahead of me and a good 15 miles away. Golly, Ace was right. I would have to pick up my feet or I'd never close the gap in time. And me with a couple hundred weight of ammo and sundry nastiness still on me. And I just had to find time to use up. We had landed in a V formation with Jelly at the bottom of the V and Red and myself at the ends of the 2 arms. Now we had to close it into a circle around the retrieval rendezvous, which meant that Red and I each had to cover more ground than the others, and still do our fair share of damage. At least the leapfrog advance was over with once we started to encircle. I could quit counting and concentrate on speed. It was getting to be less healthy to be anywhere, even moving fast. We had started with the enormous advantage of surprise, reached the ground without being hit, at least I hope nobody had been hit coming in, and had been rampaging in among them in a fashion that let us fire at will, without fear of hitting each other, while they stood a big chance of hitting their own people and shooting at us. If they could find us to shoot at all. I'm no games theory expert, but I doubt if any computer could have analyzed what we were doing in time to predict what we would do, where we would be next. Nevertheless, the home defenses were beginning to fight back, coordinated or not. I took a couple of near misses with explosives, close enough to rattle my teeth even inside my armor. And once I was brushed by some sort of beam that made my hair stand on end and half paralyzed me for a moment. As if I had hit my funny bone, but all over. If the suit hadn't already been told to jump, I guess I wouldn't have got out of there. Things like that make you pause to wonder why you ever took up soldiering. Only I was too busy to pause for anything. Twice, jumping blind over buildings, I landed right in the middle of a group of them. Jumped at once while fanning around me with the hand flamer. Spurred on this way, I closed about half my share of the gap, maybe 4 miles. In minimum time, but without doing much more of that than casual damage. My wire rack had gone empty 2 jumps back. Finding myself alone in a sort of a courtyard, I stopped to put my reserve HE bombs into it while I took a bearing on Ace. Found that I was far enough out in the front of the flank squad to think about expending my last 2 A rockets. I jumped to the top of the tallest building in the neighborhood. It was getting light enough to see. I flipped the snoopers up onto my forehead and made a fast scan with bare eyes, looking for anything behind us worth shooting. Anything at all. I had no time to be choosy. There was something on the horizon, in the direction of their spaceport. Administration and control, maybe, or possibly even a starship. Almost in line and about half as far away as an enormous structure, which I couldn't identify even that loosely. The range to the spaceport was extreme, but I let the rocket see it. Said, "Go find it, baby," and twisted its tail, slapped the last one in, and sent it toward the nearer target and jumped. That building took a direct hit just as I left it. Either a skinny had judged correctly that it was worth one of their buildings to try for one of us, or one of my own mates was getting mighty careless with fireworks. Either way, I didn't want to jump from that spot, even a skimmer. I decided to go through the next couple of buildings instead of over, so I grabbed the heavy flamer off my back as I hit and flipped the snoopers down over my eyes, tackled a wall in front of me with a knife beam at full power. A section of wall fell away and I charged in, and backed out even faster. I didn't know what it was I had cracked open. A congregation in church, a skinny flophouse, or maybe even their defense headquarters. All I knew was that it was a very big room filled with more skinnies than I wanted to see in my whole life. Probably not a church, for someone took a shot at me as I popped back out. Just a slug that bounced off my armor, made my ears ring, and staggered me without hurting me. But it reminded me that I wasn't supposed to leave without giving them a souvenir for my visit. Grabbed the first thing on my belt and lobbed it in, and heard it start to squawk. As they keep telling you in basic, doing something constructive at once is better than figuring out the best thing to do for hours later. By sheer chance, I'd done the right thing. This was a special bomb, one each issued to us for this mission, with instructions to use them if we found ways to make them effective. The squawking I heard as I threw it was the bomb shouting in skinny talk, free translation. I'm a 30-second bomb. I'm a 30-second bomb. 29, 28, 27. It was supposed to frazzle their nerves. Maybe it did. It certainly frazzled mine. Kinda to shoot a man. I didn't wait for the countdown. I jumped. Well, I wondered whether they would find enough doors and windows to swarm out in time. I got a bearing on Ren's blinker at the top of the jump and one on Ace as I grounded. I was falling behind again. Time to hurry. But 3 minutes later, we'd closed the gap. I had Red on my left flank half mile away. He reported it to Jelly. We heard Jelly's relaxed growl to the entire platoon. Circle is closed, but the beacon is not down yet. Move forward slowly, mill around, make a little more trouble. But mind the lad on each side of you. Don't make trouble for him. Good job so far, don't spoil it. Platoon, by sections, muster. It looked like a good job to me, too. Too much of the city was burning. And although it was almost full light now, it's hard to tell with bare eyes whether bare eyes were better than snoopers. Smoke was so thick. Johnson, our section leader, sounded off. Second section, call off. I echoed. Sections 4, 5, and 6, call off and report. The assortment of safe circuits we had available in the new model comm units certainly speeded things up. Jelly could talk to anybody or to his section leaders. A section leader could call his whole section, or his non-comms, and the platoon could muster twice as fast, when seconds matter. I listened to the 4th squad call off while I inventoried my remaining firepower, and lobbed one bomb toward a skinny who poked his head around a corner. He left. So did I. Mill around, the boss man had said. The 4th squad bumbled the call off until the squad leader remembered to fill in with Jenkins' number. The 5th squad clicked off like an abacus, and I began to feel good. When the call off stopped after number 4 in Ace's squad, I called out, "Ace, where's Dizzy?" "Shut up," he said. "Number 6, call off." "6, Smith answered. 7, 6th squad, Flores missing. Ace completed. Squad leader out for pickup. 1 man absent, I reported to Johnson. Flores, squad 6. Missing or dead, I don't know. Squad leader, assistant, section leader dropping out for pickup. Johnny, you let Ace take it. But I didn't hear him, so I didn't answer. I heard him report to Jelly, and I heard Jelly cuss. Now look, I wasn't bucking for a medal. It's the assistant section leader's business to make a pickup. He's the chaser, the last man in, expendable. The squad leaders have other work to do. As you've no doubt gathered by now, the assistant section leader isn't necessary as long as the section leader is alive. Right that moment, I was feeling unusually expendable, almost expended, because I was hearing the sweetest sound in the universe. The beacon the retrieval boat would land on, sounding our recall. The beacon is a robot rocket, fired ahead of the retrieval boat, just a spike that buries itself in the ground and starts broadcasting that welcome, welcome music. The retrieval boat homes in on it automatically 3 minutes later, and you had better be on hand. Hello, Wolfie3248. Welcome. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. We're just reading Starship Troopers as one of the Donathon goals. 3 minutes later, and you'd better be on hand because the bus can't wait. And there won't be another one along. Hi, how's it going, Rubo? Good to see you. But you don't walk away on another cap trooper. Not while there's a chance he's still alive. Not in Rashek's Roughnecks. Not in any outfit of the mobile infantry. You try to make pickup. I heard Jelly order, "Heads up, lads. Close to retrieval circle and interdict. On the bounce." And I heard the beacon's sweet voice. "To the everlasting glory of the infantry shines the name of Roger Young." And I wanted to head for it so bad I could taste it. Instead, I was heading the other way, closing on Ace's beacon and expending what I had left of bombs and fire pills and anything else that would weigh me down. "Ace, you got his beacon?" "Yes, go back. Useless." "I've got you by eye now. Where is he?" "Right ahead of me, maybe quarter mile. Scram, he's my man." I didn't answer. I simply cut left oblique to reach Ace about where he said Dizzy was, and found Ace standing over him. Couple of skinnies flamed down and more running away. I leapt beside him. "Let's get him out of his armor. The boat will be down any second." "He's too bad hurt." I looked and saw it was true. There was actually a hole in his armor and blood coming out, and I was stumped. To make a wounded pickup, you get him out of his armor. Then you simply pick him up in your arms, no trouble in a powered suit, and bounce away from there. Airman weighs less than the ammo and stuff you've expended. What do? We carry him. Grab hold of the left side of his belt. He grabbed the right side. We manhandled Flores to his feet. "Lock on, now, by the numbers. Stand by to jump 1, 2. We jumped. "Yo, brother, how you going? Tomorrow will be a tsunami warning on phone." "Well, thank you for the first time chat. Shit. You sure about that?" "That's pretty cool, but also terrifying." Tsunamis can break entire frickin' cities. That's the terrifying part. Watching the videos of it, it's the awesome power of nature just always gets me. We jumped. Not far, not well. One man alone couldn't have gotten him off the ground. An armored suit is too heavy. Split it between two men. It can be done. We jumped, and again, with Ace calling it and both of us steadying and catching Dizzy on each grounding. His gyros seemed to be out. I heard the beacon cut off as the retrieval boat landed on it. I saw it land, and it was too far away. We heard the acting platoon sergeant call out, "In succession, prepare to embark." Jelly called out, "Belay that order." We broke at last into the open and saw the boat standing on its tail. Heard the ululation. Ululation. God, that's actually a hard one. Of its takeoff warning. We saw the platoon still on the ground around it, an interdiction circle, crouching behind the shield that they had formed. Heard Jelly shout, "In succession, man the boat, move!" We were still too far away. I could see them peeling off from the first squad, swarm into the boat as the interdiction circle tightened. Hey, Zorg, how's it going? You're on your way to bed? Just wanted to send you an important message. Fair enough. Verhoeven did such a great job on this, but it wasn't lore accurate at all. Dizzy was the hotter girl. Oh yeah, Dizzy in the movies is that actress is gorgeous. Absolutely drop dead gorgeous. The one playing Carmen, yeah, she's nice. She got the mousy features, but something about the curly hair and all that with Dizzy was just like, God damn. Yet another of one of my younger crushes. If I recall correctly, she's, you know, despite her age, she is still gorgeous. But it's good to see you, Zwerg. You have a lovely one. Or you could stick around and as I read you a bedtime story of the glory that is Starship Troopers. But I will admit, Verhoeven did a great job on this, but you've got to remember that what Verhoeven was trying to Verhoeven was the director, right? What he was trying to do was he thought that this was a book of like fascist propaganda and not the warning that it had been intended to be. So he wanted to lambast the book with the movie, and unfortunately the movie was successful not for the reasons he originally made it. It was successful because it was A, campy, B, silly, and what? Sorry, A, campy, B, silly, and C, absolutely hilarious. And I mean, who the heck didn't like it? Well, I mean, there's plenty of people that probably didn't like it, but many of us just found it to be great. I love the movie of Starship Troopers, but the book is very different already. Never had a chance to read it, so here we are. Yeah, reading. How you doing, Peon? It's good to see. Denise Richards is like stock photo hot. Which one was Denise Richards? Hang on, let me put the book down a sec. I know I should keep reading, but a drink wouldn't hurt. Denise Richards. Carmen. Oh, you know, no, don't get me wrong. She was absolutely gorgeous. Almost everybody got the social commentary. Well, and that's the thing, right? He had originally misunderstood what Heinlein was doing. He thought that Heinlein was put this book out as as this is what he thought the future should look like. Instead, this was supposed to be a warning of what the future could look like, and ideally shouldn't look like. But yes, Denise Richards, yeah. I mean, the most recent picture of her does make her look rather ghoulish. I mean, she looks like she's hit the Ozempic like frickin' everybody else, which is unfortunate. Let's see, Flores, Starship Troopers, actress, Dina Maya, or Dinah Maya. Let's have a quick look. Oh, dude, she is still drop dead gorgeous. Holy shit. God damn. At the age of 57 years, only 57? No, no, she is. Damn, she aged gracefully. That absolutely incredible. Anyway, he read it as glorifying the War Machine, but he made a great movie anyways. Yeah, no, so, absolutely brilliant movie. But it, like I said, it wasn't successful for the reasons he had wanted. It was successful because it was campy as heck and became a cult classic because of it. It made a lot of changes, but I still love it. Lucie Liu is still killing it at like 60. Let me get myself a reminder. Lucie Liu. Oh yeah, no, absolute. Oh gods, wow. She was always stunning, but wow. Yeah. I mean, there's a picture here that's not got the best lighting, but with the right lighting, whew, incredible. There was there's a new one, well, recent, from Mission Impossible. Who plays? Oh, what was the name of the character? The thief. What was the name of the thief character? Doesn't matter. The actress's name is Haley Atwell. She's quite gorgeous at her. You know, she's quite gorgeous. Oh wow, she's 44. Incredible. I was watching Dead Reckoning and Final Reckoning recently. Thus ends the Mission Impossible saga. Quite enjoyed them, actually. Anyway, shall we continue? Yes. Feel free to continue discussing things in comments, you know, in chat. That's kind of the point of chat. You guys can discuss the book, you can discuss the movies, you can discuss other things. Obviously, avoid politics, because even though this is a book full of politics, technically they're future politics, except not, because the timing of this is all over the place. Anyway, let's continue. Where were we? Yes. We were still too far away. I could see them peel off the first squad, swarm into the boat as the interdiction circle tightened, and a single figure broke out of the circle, came toward us at a speed possible only to a command suit. Jelly caught us while we were in the air, grabbed Flores by his Y-rack and helped us lift. 3 jumps got us to the boat. Everybody else was inside, but the door was still open. We got him in, and closed it while the boat pilots screamed that we'd made her miss rendezvous, and now we had all boarded. Jelly paid no attention to her. We laid Flores down and lay down beside him. As the blast hit us, Jelly was saying to himself, "All present, Lieutenant. 3 men hurt, but all present." I'll say this for Captain Deladria. I don't make any better pilots. The rendezvous boat to ship in orbit is precisely calculated. I don't know how, but it is, and you don't change it. You can't. Only she did. She saw in her scope that the boat had failed to blast on time. She braked back, picked up speed again and matched, and took us in, just by eye and touch. No time to compute it. If the Almighty ever needs an assistant to keep the stars in their courses, I know where he can look. Flores died on the way up. And thus ends chapter 1. Damn. And we haven't even gotten to the bugs. That's the crazy part. From my understanding, they're a small part of the book. A small part of the book that basically became an entire movie. Well, not even just one movie. A bunch of movies and an animated series, which I genuinely wish never got cancelled. Roughnecks was great. And they finally got to Earth and cancelled. It's like, are you kidding? But if you ever get a chance to go watch it, and there's a variety of ways to go watch it, I recommend it. It's a good series. It scared me so, I hooked it off, nor stopped as I remember, nor turned about till I got home, locked up in mother's chamber. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy, mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. I never really intended to join up, and certainly not the infantry. Why, I would rather have taken 10 lashes in the public square and have my father tell me that I was a disgrace to a proud name. Oh, I had mentioned to my father, late in my senior year in high school, that I was thinking over the idea of volunteering for federal service. I suppose every kid does. When his 18th birthday heaves into sight, and mine was due the week I graduated. Of course, most of them just think about it, toy with the idea a little, then go do something else. Go to college, or get a job, or something. Suppose it would have been that way with me, if my best chum had not, with dead seriousness, planned to join up. Carl and I had done everything together in high school. Eyed the girls together, double dated together, been on the debate team together, pushed electrons together in his home lab. I wasn't much on electronic theory myself, but I'm a neat hand with a soldering gun. Carl supplied the skull sweat, and I carried out his instructions. It was fun. Anything we did together was fun. Carl's folks didn't have anything like the money that my father had, but it didn't matter between us. When my father bought me a Rolls copter for my 14th birthday, it was Carl's as much as it was mine. Contrary-wise, his basement lab was mine. So when Carl told me he was not going straight on with school, he would serve a term first, it gave me pause. He really meant it. He seemed to think that it was natural and right and obvious. So I told him I was joining up too. He gave me an odd look. Your old man won't let you. Huh? How can he stop me? And of course he couldn't, not legally. It's the first completely free choice anybody gets, and maybe his last. When a boy or a girl reaches his or her 18th birthday, he or she can volunteer and nobody else has any say in the matter. You'll find out. Carl changed the subject. So I took it up with my father, tentatively edging into it sideways. He put down his newspaper and cigar and stared at me. Son, are you out of your mind? I muttered that I didn't think so. Well, it certainly sounds like it, he sighed. Still, I should have been expecting it. It's a predictable stage in a boy's growing up. I remember when you learned to walk and weren't a baby any longer. Frankly, you were a little hellion for quite a while. You broke one of your mother's Ming vases. On purpose, I'm quite sure. But you were too young to know that it was valuable, so all you got was having your hand spattered. I recall the day you swiped one of my cigars, and how sick it made you. Your mother and I carefully avoided noticing that you couldn't eat dinner that night, and I've never mentioned it to you until now. Boys have to try such things and discover for themselves that men's vices are not for them. We watched when you turned the corner on adolescence, and started noticing that girls were different, and wonderful. He sighed again. All normal stages, and the last one right at the end of adolescence is when a boy decides to join up and wear a pretty uniform, or decides that he's in love such as no man ever experienced before, and that he just has to get married right away, or both. He smiled grimly. With me, it was both. But I got over each of them in time, not to make a fool of myself and ruin my life. But Father, I wouldn't ruin my life. Just a term of service, not career. Let's table that, shall we? Listen, and let me tell you what you're going to do, because you want to. In the first place, this family has stayed out of politics and cultivated its own garden for over 100 years. I see no reason for you to break that fine record. I suppose it's the influence of that fellow at your high school. What's his name? You know the one I mean. He meant our instructor in history and moral philosophy. A veteran, naturally, Mr. Dubois. Another massive change. Silly name, it suits him. Foreigner, no doubt. I ought to be against the it ought to be against the law to use the schools as undercover recruiting stations. I think I'm going to write a pretty sharp letter about it. The taxpayer has some rights. But Father, he doesn't do that at all. I stopped, not knowing how to describe it. Mr. Dubois had a snotty, superior manner. He acted as if none of us was really good enough to volunteer for service. I didn't like him. If anything, he discourages it. Do you know how to lead a pig? Never mind. When you graduate, you're going to study business at Harvard. You know that. After that, you'll go on to the Sorbonne. The Sorbonne? Yeah, the Sorbonne. And you'll travel a bit along with it. Meet some of our distributors, find out how business is done elsewhere. Then you'll come home and go to work. You'll start with the usual menial job, stock clerk or something, just for form's sake. But you'll be an executive before you can catch your breath, because I'm not getting any younger, and the quicker you can pick up the load, the better. As soon as you're able and willing, you'll be boss. There, how does that strike you as a program, as compared with wasting 2 years of your life? I didn't say anything. None of it was news to me. I'd thought about it. Father stood up and put a hand on my shoulder. Son, don't think I don't sympathize with you. I do. Look at the real facts. If there were a war, I'd be the first to cheer you on, and to put the business on a war footing. But there isn't, and praise God there will never be again. We've outgrown wars. This planet is now peaceful and happy, and we enjoy good enough relations with other planets. So what is this so-called federal service? Parasitism, pure and simple. A functionless organ, utterly obsolete, living on the taxpayers. A decidedly expensive way for inferior people who otherwise would be unemployed to live at public expense for a term of years, then give themselves heirs for the rest of their lives. Is that what you want to do? Carl isn't inferior. Sorry, no. He's a fine boy, but misguided. He frowned and then smiled. Son, I had intended to keep something as a surprise for you, as a graduation present. But I'm going to tell you now, so that you can put this nonsense out of your mind more easily. Not that I am afraid of what you might do. I have confidence in your basic good sense, even at your tender years. You're troubled, I know. And this will clear it away. Can you guess what it is? No. He grinned. A vacation trip to Mars. I must have looked stunned. Golly, Father, I had no idea. I meant to surprise you, and I see I did. I know how you kids feel about travel, though it beats me what anyone sees in it after the first time out. But this is a good time for you to do it by yourself. Did I mention that? Get it out of your system. Because you'll be hard-pressed to get in even a week on Luna once you take up your responsibilities. He picked up his paper. No, don't thank me. Just run along and let me finish my paper. I've got some gentlemen coming in this evening, because shortly, business. I ran along. I guess he thought that settled that, and I suppose I did too. Mars, and on my own. But I didn't tell Carl about it. I had a sneaking suspicion that he would regard it as a bribe. Well, maybe it was. Instead, I simply told him that my father and I seemed to have different ideas about it. Yeah, he answered. So does mine. But it's my life. I thought about it during the last session of our class in history and moral philosophy. H&MP was different from other courses in that everyone had to take it, but nobody had to pass it. Mr. Dubois never seemed to care whether he got through to us or not. He would just point at you with the stump of his left arm, never bothered with names, and snap a question. Then the argument would start. The last day, he seemed to be trying to find out what we had learned. One girl told him bluntly, "My mother says that violence never settles anything." So? Mr. Dubois looked at her bleakly. "I'm sure the city fathers of Carthage would be glad to know that. Why doesn't your mother tell them so? Or why don't you?" "Oh my god, sir. When you see this, I don't see a counter." Ah, shit! One for reading time of the one you enter. Ah! Crap. You're right. I forgot entirely, didn't I? Let me come back out here. Hang on. I need to grab the donation timer. And I need to grab this. I'm just gonna make copies of them. I haven't used this screen in forever, so it's not well set up. I'd rather do it as a duplicate, but I don't really have a choice, do I? Alright, well. Probably. Oh gods, did we not resume? I just got into the story because I enjoyed it already. Is it going? No, I think it has to be all lowercase. Sorry about that. Thank you, Pion. I really appreciate that. Is it working? There it goes. Yes, we are still on the Donathon. Can you even see the background? Huh. I can't actually see the background. Why not? One moment. Oh, it's... Why is it, Miles? Why is it... What? What? Nope, those aren't doing it. Hang on a minute then, guys. I'll see if I can figure it out. Ah. I don't actually know. Oh, it's me. Oh, I'm the problem. Wow. Whoops. I just threw it on and completely forgot about it. That needs to be a chroma key. Shouldn't get rid of all of it if we're lucky. Never mind. I don't remember how it's supposed to be set up. Well. Alright, well thank you for this, Pion. Give me one moment. Come here. Where am I? Where am I? Where am I? I'm here somewhere. There I am. Alright, what am I using to... Wait, what? I'm not using anything to make it transparent background. What? Oh, that's weird. Story time. That's really weird. Huh. Okay, let me just paste duplicate. We'll ditch that one, because that shouldn't be there. It shouldn't be doing that, that's for sure. Bring me down. Down, down. By the river. There we are. And this one, we'll put that filter back on. Get nice and dark. You should be able to sort of see it in the background. maybe? Oh gods, I can barely see it in the background. A little too dark. We'll just have this then. Oh yeah. Thanks for that, Peon. I appreciate it. Alright, let's get back to the story. So where were we? Where were we? Ah, here we are. They had tangled before. Since you couldn't flunk the course, it wasn't necessary to keep Mr. Dubois buttered up. She said shrilly, "You're making fun of me. Everyone knows that Carthage was destroyed." "You seem to be unaware of it," he said grimly. "Since you do know it, wouldn't you say that violence had settled their destinies rather thoroughly? However, I was not making fun of you personally. I was heaping scorn on an inexcusable silly idea, a practice I shall always follow. Anyone who clings to the historically untrue and thoroughly immoral doctrine that violence never settles anything, I would advise to conjure up the ghosts of Napoleon Bonaparte and of the Duke of Wellington and let them debate it. The ghost of Hitler could referee, and the jury might well be the dodo, the great auk, and the passenger pigeon. Violence, naked force, has settled more issues in history than has any other factor, and the contrary opinion is wishful thinking at its worst. Breeds that forget this basic truth have always paid for it with their lives and freedoms." He sighed. "Another year, another class, and for me, another failure. One can lead a child to knowledge, but one cannot make him think." Suddenly he pointed his stump at you. "You, what is the moral difference, if any, between the soldier and the civilian?" "The difference," I answered carefully, "lies in the field of civic virtue. A soldier accepts personal responsibility for the safety of the body politic, of which he is a member, defending it, if need be, with his life. The civilian does not." "The exact words of the book," he said scornfully. "But do you understand it? Do you believe it?" I don't know, sir." "Of course you don't. I doubt any of you here would recognize civic virtue if it came up and barked in your face." He glanced at his watch. "And that is all. A final all. Perhaps we shall meet again under happier circumstances. Dismissed." Sir, a countdown timer. 10 minutes reading, 10 minutes talking with chat? Oh, I don't have any such thing. There was genuinely no plans for any of that. Don't worry. Feel free to say things in chat, and I'll look up and I'll look up occasionally and read. Graduation after that, and 3 days later my birthday, followed in less than a week by Carl's birthday, and I still hadn't told Carl that I wasn't joining up. I'm sure he assumed that I would not, but we didn't discuss it out loud. Embarrassing. I simply arranged to meet him the day after his birthday, and we went down to the recruiting office together. On the steps of the federal building, we ran into Carmencita Ibanez, classmate of ours, and one of the nice things about being a member of a race with two sexes. Carmen wasn't my girl. She wasn't anybody's girl. She never made 2 dates in a row with the same boy and treated all of us with equal sweetness and rather impersonally. But I knew her pretty well. She often came over and used our swimming pool because it was Olympic length, sometimes with one boy, sometimes with another. Or alone, as Mother urged her to. Mother considered her a good influence. For once, she was right. My emotional support timer? We've never had an emotional support timer. What the heck are you talking about? She saw us and waited, dimpling. Hi, fellows. Hello, OG Chornia. Chornia? I answered. What brings you here? Can't you guess? Today's my birthday. Happy returns. So I'm joining up. Oh. I think Carl was as surprised as I was. But Carmencita was like that. She never gossiped, and she kept her own affairs to herself. No fooling, I added brilliantly. Why should I be fooling? I'm going to be a spaceship pilot. At least I'm going to try for it. No reason why you shouldn't make it, Carl said quickly. He was right. I know now just how right he was. Carmen was small, neat, perfect health, and perfect reflexes. She could make competitive diving routine look easy, and she was quick at mathematics. Me? I tapered off with a C in algebra and B in business and arithmetic. She took all the math our school offered and a tutored advanced course on the side. But it never occurred to me to wonder why. Fact is, little Carmen was so ornamental that you just never thought about her being useful. Well, I am here to join up too. And me, I agreed. Both of us. No, I hadn't made any decision. My mouth was leading its own life. Oh, wonderful. And I'm going to buck for space pilot too, I added firmly. She didn't laugh. She answered very seriously. Oh, how grand. Perhaps in training we'll run into each other. I hope so. Collision courses? Asked Carl. That's no good way to pilot. Don't be silly, Carl, on the ground, of course. You're going to be a pilot too? Me? Carl answered. I'm no truck driver. You know me. Starside R&D, if they'll have me. Electronics. Truck driver, indeed. I hope they stick you out on Pluto and let you freeze. No, I don't. Good luck. Let's go in, shall we? The recruiting station was inside a railing in the rotunda. The fleet sergeant sat at a desk there, in dress uniform, gaudy as a circus. His chest was loaded with ribbons. I couldn't read. But his right arm was off, so short that his tunic had been tailored without any sleeve at all. And when you came up to the rail, you could see that he had no legs. Didn't seem to bother him. Carl said, "Good morning, I want to join up. Me too," I added. He ignored us. Managed to bow while sitting down and said, "Good morning, young lady. What can I do for you?" I want to join up too. He smiled. "Good girl. If you'll just scoot up to room 201 and ask Major Rogers, she'll take care of you." He looked her up and down. "Pilot? If possible. You look like one." "Well, see Miss Rogers." She left with thanks to him and a see you later to us. He turned his attention to us, sized us up with a total absence of pleasure he'd shown in little Carmen. "So," he said, "for what, labor battalions?" "Oh no," I said, "I'm going to be a pilot." He stared at me and simply turned his eyes away. You? I'm interested in the Research and Development Corps," Carl said soberly. "Especially electronics. I understand the chances are pretty good." "They are if you can cut it," the fleet sergeant said grimly, "but not if you don't have what it takes, both in preparation and ability. Look, boys, have you any idea why they have me out here in front?" I didn't understand him. Carl said, "Why?" "Because the government doesn't care one bucket of swill whether you join or not. Because it's become stylish with some people, too many people, to serve a term and earn a franchise and be able to wear a ribbon in your lapel that says you're a veteran, whether you've ever seen combat or not. But if you want to serve, I can't talk you out of it, and we have to take you because that's your constitutional right. It says that everybody, male or female, shall have his born right to pay his service and assume full citizenship. The facts are that we are getting hard pushed to find things for all the volunteers to do that aren't just glorified KP. You can't all be real military men. We don't need that many, and most of the volunteers aren't number one soldier material anyhow. Got any idea what it takes to make a soldier?" "No," I admitted. "Oh. Most people think that all it takes is 2 hands and 2 feet and a stupid mind. Maybe so for cannon fodder. Possibly that was all that Julius Caesar required." Is it pronounced Julius Caesar or Julius Caesar? I was under the impression it was Julius Caesar. But a private soldier today is a specialist so highly skilled that it would rate master in any other trade. We can't afford stupid ones. So for those who insist on serving their term and haven't got what we want and must have, we've had to think up a whole list of dirty, nasty, dangerous jobs that will either run them home with their tails between their legs and their terms uncompleted, or at the very least make them remember for the rest of their lives that their citizenship is valuable to them because they've paid a high price for it. Take that young lady who was here. Wants to be a pilot. I hope she makes it. We always need good pilots, not enough of them. Maybe she will. But if she misses, she may wind up in Antarctica. Her pretty eyes red from never seeing anything but artificial light and her knuckles calloused from hard, dirty work. I wanted to tell him that the least Carmen Cedar could get was a computer programmer for the Skywatch. She really was a whiz at math, but he was talking. So they put me out here to discourage you boys. Look at this! He shoved his chair around to make sure that we could see that it was legless. Let's assume that you don't wind up digging tunnels on Luna or playing human guinea pig for new diseases through sheer lack of talent. Suppose we do make a fighting man out of you. Take a look at me. It's what you might buy. If you don't buy the whole farm, because your folks receive and cause your folks to receive a deeply regret telegram, which is more likely because these days in training or in combat there aren't many wounded. If you buy it all, they likely throw in a coffin. I'm the rare exception. I was lucky. Though maybe you wouldn't call it luck. He paused and added, so why don't you boys go home, go to college, and then go be chemists or insurance brokers or whatever. The term of service isn't a kiddie camp. It's either real military service, rough and dangerous even in peacetime, or a most unreasonable facsimile thereof. Not a vacation. Not a romantic adventure. Well, Carl said, I'm here to join up. Me too. You realize you aren't allowed to pick your service. Carl said, I thought we could state our preferences. Certainly. It's the last choice you'll make until the end of your term. The placement officer pays attention to your choice too. First thing he does is to check whether there's any demand for left-handed glass blowers this week, that being what you think would make you happy. Having reluctantly conceded that there is a need for your choice, probably at the bottom of the Pacific, he then tests you for innate ability and preparation. About once in 20 times, he's forced to admit that everything matches and you get the job. Until some practical joker gives you dispatch orders to do something very different. But the other 19 times, he turns you down and decides you are just what they have been needing to field test survival equipment on Titan. He added meditatively, it's chilly on Titan, and it's amazing how often experimental equipment fails to work. Have to have real field tests though. Laboratories just never get all the answers. I can qualify for electronics, Carl said firmly, if there are jobs open in it. So, and how about you, bub? I hesitated and suddenly realized that if I didn't take a swing at it, I would wonder all my life whether I was anything but the boss's son. I'm going to chance it. Well, you can't say I didn't try. Got your birth certificates with you. Let's see your IDs. 10 minutes later, still not sworn in. We were on the top floor being prodded and poked and fluoroscoped. I decided that the idea of a physical examination is that if you aren't ill, then they do their darndest to make you ill. If the attempt fails, you're in. I asked one of the doctors what percentage of the victims flunked the physical. He said he looked startled. Why, we never fail anyone. The law doesn't permit us to. Huh? I mean, excuse me, doctor, then what's the point of this goose flesh parade? Why, the purpose is... He answered, hauling off and hitting me in the knee with a hammer. I kicked him, but not hard. To find out what duties you're physically able to perform. But if you came in here in a wheelchair and blind in both eyes and were silly enough to insist on enrolling, they would find something silly enough to match. Counting the fuzz on a caterpillar by touch, maybe. The only way you can fail is by having the psychiatrist decide that you are not able to understand the oath. Oh. Doctor? Were you already a doctor when you joined up? Or did they decide you ought to be a doctor and send you to school? Me? He seems shocked. Youngster, do I look that silly? I'm a civilian employee. Oh, sorry, sir. No offense, but military service is for ants. Believe me, I see them go, I see them come back. When they do come back, I see what's done to them. And for what? A purely nominal political privilege that pays not one centavo? And that most of them aren't competent to use wisely anyhow? Now, if they would let medical men run things, but never mind that. You might think I was talking treason, free speech or not. But youngster, if you've got savvy enough to count 10, you'll back out while you still can. Here, take these papers back to the recruiting sergeant and remember what I said. I went back to the rotunda. Carl was already there. The fleet sergeant looked at over my papers and said glumly, apparently you both are almost insufferably healthy, except for holes in the head. A moment while I get some witnesses. He punched a button and two female clerks came out. One old battle axe, and one kind of cute. He pointed to our physical examination forms, our birth certificates, and our IDs, and said formally, I invite and require you each and severally to examine these exhibits, determine what they are, and to determine each independently what relation, if any, each document bears to these two men standing here in your presence. They treated it as a dull routine, which I'm sure it was. Nevertheless, they scrutinized every document, they took our fingerprints again, and the cute one put a jeweler's loupe in her eye and compared prints from birth to now. She did the same with signatures. I began to doubt if I was myself. The fleet sergeant added, did you find exhibits relating to their present confidence to take the oath of enrollment? If so, what? We found, the older one said, appended to each record of physical examination, a duly certified conclusion by an authorized and delegated board of psychiatrists stating that each of them is mentally competent to take the oath and that neither one is under the influence of alcohol, narcotics, or other disabling drugs, nor of hypnosis. Very good, he turned to us. Repeat after me. I, being of legal age of my own free will, we each echoed, being of legal age and of my own free will, without coercion, promise, or inducement of any sort, after having been duly advised and warned of the meaning and consequences of this oath, do now enroll in the federal service of the Terran Federation for a term of not less than 2 years and as much longer as may be required by the needs of the service. I gulped a little over that part. I'd always thought of a term as 2 years, even though I knew better because that's the way people talk about it. Why, we were signing up for life. I swear to uphold and defend the Constitution of the Federation against all its enemies on or off Terra, to protect and defend the constitutional liberties and privileges of all citizens and lawful residents of the Federation, its associated states and territories, to perform on or off Terra such duties of any lawful nature as may be assigned to me by lawful, direct, or delegated authority, and to obey all lawful orders of the Commander-in-Chief of the Terran Service, and of all officers or delegated persons placed over me, and to require such obedience from all members of the service or other persons or non-human beings lawfully placed under my orders, and on being honorably discharged at the completion of my... Hang on. I will deal with that in a moment. Honorably discharged at the completion of my full term of active service or upon being placed on inactive retired status after having completed such full term, to carry out all duties and obligations and to enjoy all privileges of Federation citizenship, including but not limited to the duty, obligation, and privilege of exercising sovereign franchise for the rest of my natural life, unless stripped by honor or by verdict finally sustained of court of my sovereign peers. Ha! Bloody hell! Sir, they're still loud. What's loud? Oh, those are loud. No, that makes sense. Those are the only loud ones I left. Yeah, get you some daily evil. What a freaking oath, though. Jeez. Legally binding and everything. I mean, I guess that's kind of the point, right? The idea is to not leave loopholes for people to you know, legal their way out. You are making an oath, and thus you must uphold said oath. Which, by the way, I'm reading a book, so I'm not taking any oaths, so if there's anything in the future, or somebody decides to throw it through AI, fuck off. Anyway, whew. Mr. Dubois had analyzed the service oath for us in history and moral philosophy and had made us study it phrase by phrase. But you don't really feel the size of the thing until it comes rolling over you. All in one ungainly piece, as heavy and unstoppable as Juggernaut's carriage. At least it made me realize that I was no longer a civilian, with my shirt tail out and nothing on my mind. I didn't know yet what I was, but I knew what I wasn't. So help me God, we both ended, and Carl crossed himself, and so did the cute one. After that, there were more signatures and fingerprints, all 5 of us, and flat color graphs of Carl and me were snapped then and there and embossed into our papers. The fleet sergeant finally looked up. Why, it's way past the break for lunch. Time for chow, lads. I swallowed hard. Sergeant? Speak up. Could I flash my folks from here? Tell them how it came out? We can do better than that. Sir? You go on 48 hours leave now. Do you know what happens if you don't come back? Court-martial? Not a thing. Not a blessed thing. Except that your papers get marked. Term not completed satisfactory, and you never, never, never get a second chance. This is our cooling off period, during which we shake out the overgrown babies who didn't really mean it and should never have taken the oath. It saves the government money, and it saves the power of grief for such kids and their parents. The neighbors needn't guess. You don't even have to tell your parents. He shoved his chair away from his desk. So, I'll see you at noon day after tomorrow. If I see you, fetch your personal effects. It was a crumbly leave. Father stormed at me, then quit speaking to me. Mother took to her bed. When I finally left an hour earlier than I had to, nobody saw me off, but the morning cook and the houseboys. I stopped in front of the recruiting sergeant's desk, thought about saluting, and decided I didn't know how. He looked up. Now, here are your papers. Take them up to room 201. I'll start you through the mill. Knock and walk in. 2 days later, I knew I was not going to be a pilot. Some of the things the examiners wrote about me were insufficient intuitive grasp of spatial relationships, insufficient mathematical talent, deficient mathematical preparation, reaction time adequate, eyesight good. Screams Marine Corps there. I'm glad they put in those last 2. I was beginning to feel that counting on my fingers was my speed. The placement officer let me list my lesser preferences in order, and I caught 4 more days of the wildest aptitude tests I've ever heard of. I mean to say, what do they find out when a stenographer jumps on her chair and screams, "Snakes!" There was no snake, just a harmless piece of plastic hose. The written and oral tests were mostly just as silly, but they seemed happy with them, so I took them. The thing I did most carefully was to list my preferences. Naturally, I listed all of the Space Navy jobs other than pilot. At the top, whether I went as power room technician or as cook, I knew that I preferred any Navy job to any Army job. I wanted to travel. Next, I listed intelligence. A spy gets around too, and I figured that it couldn't possibly be dull. I was wrong, but never mind. After that came a long list. Psychological warfare, chemical warfare, biological warfare, combat ecology. I didn't know what it was, but it sounded interesting. Logistics core. A simple mistake. I had studied logic for the debate team, and logistics turns out to have two entirely separate meanings, and a dozen others. Clear at the bottom, with some hesitation, I put canine corps and infantry. I didn't bother to list the various non-combatant auxiliary corps, because if I wasn't picked for a combat corps, I didn't care whether they used me as an experimental animal or sent me as a laborer or in the tyrannizing of Venus. Either one was a booby prize. Mr. Weiss, the placement officer, sent for me a week after I was sworn in. He was actually a retired psychological warfare major, on active duty for procurement, but he wore mufti and insisted on being called just Mr., and you could relax and take it easy with him. He had my list of preferences and the reports on all my tests, and I saw that he was holding my high school transcript, which pleased me. I'd done all right in school. I'd stood high enough without standing so high as to be marked as a greasy grind, having never flunked any courses and dropped only one. And I had been rather a big man around school otherwise. Swimming team, debate team, track squad, class treasurer, silver medal in the annual literary contest, chairman of the homecoming committee, stuff like that. A well-rounded record, and it's all down on the transcript. He looked up as I came in, said, "Sit down, Johnny," and looked back at the transcript and put it down. "You like dogs, huh?" "Yes, sir." "How well do you like them? Did your dog sleep on your bed? By the way, where's your dog now?" "I don't happen to have a dog just at present, but when I did, well, no, he didn't sleep on my bed. See, Mother didn't allow dogs in the house." "But didn't you sneak him in?" I thought of trying to explain Mother's not angry but terribly, terribly hurt routine when you tried to buck her on something she had her mind made up about, but I gave up. "No, sir." "Have you ever seen a Neo dog?" Once, sir. They exhibited one at MacArthur Theater 2 years ago, but the SPCA made trouble for them." "Let me tell you how it is with a canine team. A Neo dog is not just a dog that talks. I couldn't understand that Neo at the MacArthur. Do they really talk? They talk. You simply have to train your ear to their accent. Their mouths can't shape B, M, P, or V. You have to get used to their equivalents. Something like the handicap of a split palate, but with different letters. No matter, their speech is as clear as any human speech. But a Neo dog is not a talking dog. It's not a dog at all. It is an artificially mutated symbiote derived from dog stock. A Neo, a trained Caleb, is about 6 times as bright as a dog, say about as intelligent as a human moron, except that the comparison is not fair to the Neo. A moron is a defective, whereas a Neo is a stable genius in his own line of work." Mr. Weiss scowled. "Provided, that is, that he has a symbiote. That's the rub. Maybe you're too young ever to have been married, but you've seen marriage, your own parents at least. Can you imagine being married to a Caleb?" "Huh? No, I can't. The emotional relationship between the dog man and the man dog in the canine team is a great deal closer and much more important than is the emotional relationship in most marriages. If the master is killed, we kill the Neo dog at once. It is all that we can do for the poor thing, a mercy killing. If the Neo dog is killed, well, we can't kill the man, even though it would be the simplest solution. Instead, we restrain him, hospitalize him, and slowly put him back together." He picked up a pen, made a mark. I don't think we can risk assigning a boy to K9 who didn't outwit his mother to have his dog sleep with him. Let's consider something else." It was not until then I realized that I must have already flunked every choice on my list above K9 Corps. And now I just flunked it too. I was so startled that I almost missed his next remark. Major Weiss said meditatively that with no expression, as if he were talking about someone else long dead and far away. I was once half a K9 team. Mike Caleb became a casualty. They kept me under sedation for 6 weeks. Then rehabilitated me for other work. Johnny, these courses you've taken, why didn't you study something useful? Sir, too late now. Forget it. Your instructor in history and moral philosophy seems to think well of you. Does? I was surprised. What did he say? I smiled. He says you're not stupid, merely ignorant and prejudiced by your environment. From him, that is high praise. I know him. Didn't sound like praise to me. A stuck-up, stiff-necked old... And, Weiss went on, a boy who gets a C- in appreciation of television can't be all bad. I think we'll accept Mr. Dubois' recommendation. How would you like to be an infantryman? I came out of the federal building feeling subdued, yet not really unhappy. At least I was a soldier. I had papers in my pocket to prove it. I hadn't been classed as too dumb and useless for anything but make work. It was a few minutes until after the end of the working day, and the building was empty save for a skeleton night staff and a few stragglers. I ran into a man in the rotunda who was just leaving. His face looked familiar, but I couldn't place him. He caught my eye and recognized me. Evening, he said briskly. You haven't shipped out yet? And then I recognized him. The fleet sergeant who had sworn us in. I guess my chin dropped. This man was in civilian clothes, was walking around on 2 legs and had 2 arms. Good evening, Sergeant, I mumbled. He understood my expression perfectly, glanced down at himself and smiled easily. Relax, lad. I don't have to put on my horror show after working hours. And I don't. You haven't been placed yet? Just got my orders. For what? Mobile infantry. His face broke in a big grin of delight and he shoved out his hand. My outfit! Shake, son! Make a man out of you or kill you trying. Maybe both. It's a good choice, I said doubtfully. A good choice? Son, it's the only choice. The mobile infantry is the army. All the others are either button pushers or professors, along merely to hand us the saw. We do the work. He shook hands again and added, drop me a card. Fleet Sergeant Ho. Federal Building. They'll reach me. Good luck. And he was off, shoulders back, heels clicking, head up. I looked at my hand. The hand he had offered me was the one that wasn't there, his right hand. Yet it had felt like flesh and had shaken mine firmly. I'd read about these powered prosthetics, but it's startling when you run across them. I went back to the hotel where recruits were temporarily billeted during placement. We didn't even have uniforms yet, just plain coveralls we wore during the day and our own clothes after hours. I went to my room and started packing. As I was shipping out early in the morning, packing to send stuff home, I mean. Weiss had cautioned me not to take along anything but family photographs and possibly a musical instrument if I played one, which I didn't. Carl had shipped out 3 days earlier. Having gotten the R&D assignment he wanted. I was just as glad, as he would have been just too confounded understanding about the billet I had drawn. Little Carmen had shipped out too, with the rank of cadet midshipman, probationary. She was going to be a pilot, all right. If she could cut it. I suspected she could. My temporary roomie came in while I was packing. Got your orders? He asked. Yep. What? Mobile infantry. The infantry? Oh, you poor stupid clown. I feel sorry for you. I really do. I straightened up and said angrily, shut up. The mobile infantry is the best outfit in the army. It is the army. And the rest of you jerks are just along to hand us the saw. We do the work. He laughed. You'll find out. Want a mouthful of knuckles? Really fitting the mobile infantry, ain't he? Just as hostile. Oh, let me have a drink of some tea. By the way, for anybody here, we should be getting the rank stream on Tuesday. I think I've picked out a game. I have to just be able to, I have to be able to buy it first. But I was thinking, let me see here. There's a silly game that should take 4 or 5 hours. It's like something funny raccoon game. That's what the rank's gonna play. I helped him pick it. Okay, no, I didn't help him pick it, but I want to think I did. Little shit, I already had the idea. Yeah, that means you. I wanted to help. He wanted it to be a surprise. See? And now we both don't get what we want. He's just scowling at me. Go on, get out of here. Go on, you got duties. Go on. Chapter 3. He shall rule them with a rod of iron. Revelations 2:25, I think. That's... I'm not a Bible person. It's II 25, so I'm guessing that's 2:25. I did basic at Camp Arthur Curry on the northern prairies along with a couple of thousand other victims. And I do mean camp, as the only permanent buildings there were to shelter equipment. We slept and ate in tents. We lived outdoors. If you can call that living. Sorry, if you call that living. Which I didn't at the time. I was used to a warm climate. It seemed to me that the North Pole was just 5 miles north of camp and getting closer. Ice Age returning, no doubt. But exercise will keep you warm, and they saw to it that we got plenty of that. The first morning we were there, they woke us up before daybreak. I had had trouble adjusting to the change in time zones, and it seemed to me that I had just got to sleep. I couldn't believe that anyone seriously intended that I should get up in the middle of the night. But they did mean it. The speaker somewhere was blaring out a military march, fit to wake the dead. And a hairy nuisance who had come charging down the company street yelling, "Everybody out! Show a leg!" On the bounce. Came marauding back again as I had pulled the covers over my head, tipped over my cot, and dumped me on the cold hard ground. It was an impersonal attention. He didn't even wait to see if I hit. 2 minutes later, dressed in trousers, undershirt, and shoes, I was lined up with the others in ragged ranks for setting up exercises just as the sun looked over the eastern horizon. Facing us was a big, broad-shouldered, mean-looking man, dressed just as we were, except that while I looked and felt like a poor job of embalming, his chin was shaved, blue. His trousers were sharply creased. You could have used his shoes for mirrors, and his manner was alert, wide awake, relaxed, and rested. Got the impression that he never needed to sleep, just 10,000-mile checkups and dust him off occasionally. He bellowed, "Me, attend shut. I am Career Ship Sergeant Zim, your company commander. When you speak to me, you will salute and say, 'Sir.' You will salute and 'Sir' anyone who carries an instructor's baton." He was carrying a swagger cane and now made a quick reverse moulinette with it to show what he meant by an instructor's baton. I had noticed men carrying them when we had arrived the night before and had intended to get one myself. They looked smart. Now I changed my mind. Because we don't have enough officers around here for you to practice on, you'll practice on us. Who sneezed? No answer. Who sneezed? I did, a voice answered. I did what? I sneezed. I sneezed. Sir. I sneezed, sir. I'm cold, sir. Oh ho! Zim strode up to the man who had sneezed, shoved the ferrule of the swagger cane an inch under his nose and demanded, name. Jenkins, sir. Jenkins. Zim repeated as if the word was somehow distasteful, even shameful. I suppose some night on patrol you're going to sneeze just because you've got a runny nose, eh? I hope not, sir. So do I, but you're cold. We'll fix that. He pointed with his stick. See that armory over there? I looked and could see nothing but prairie except for one building that seemed to be almost on the skyline. Fallout, run for it. Run around it. Run! I said fast. Bronski, pace him. Right, Sarge. One of the 5 or 6 other baton carriers took out after Jenkins, caught up with him easily, cracked him across the tight of his pants with the baton. Zim turned back to the rest of us, still shivering at attention. He walked up and down, looked us over, and seemed awfully unhappy. At last, he stepped out in front of us, shook his head, and said, apparently to himself, but he had a voice that carried, to think that this had to happen to me. He looked at us. You apes. No, not apes. You don't rate that much, you pitiful mob of sickly monkeys. You sunken-chested, slack-bellied, drooling refugees from apron strings. In my whole life, I never saw such a disgraceful huddle of mama's spoiled little darlings, and you there, suck up that gut. Eyes front, I'm talking to you. I pulled in my belly, even though I was not sure he had addressed me. He went on, and I began to forget my goose flesh in hearing him storm. He never once repeated himself, and he never used either profanity or obscenity. I learned later that he saved those for very special occasions, which this wasn't. But he described our shortcomings, physical, mental, moral, and genetic, in great and insulting detail. Somehow, I was not insulted. I became greatly interested in studying his command of language. I wish that we had him on our debate team. At last he stopped and seemed about to cry. I can't stand it, he said bitterly. I just got to work some of it off. I had a better set of wooden soldiers when I was 6. Alright. Is there any one of you jungle lice who thinks he can whip me? I like the jungle lice. Is there a man in the crowd? Speak up. There was a short silence in which I contributed. I didn't have any doubt at all that he could whip me. I was convinced. I heard a voice far down the tall end. Reckon I can, sir? Zim looked happy. Good, step out here where I can see you. The recruit did so, and he was impressive, at least 3 inches taller than Sergeant Zim and broader across the shoulders. What's your name, soldier? Breckenridge, sir. And weighed 210 pounds, and they ain't any of it slack-bellied. Any particular way you'd like to fight? Sir, you just pick your own method of dying. I'm not fussy. Okay. No rules. Did that not come through? Why did that not come through? They worked before. It should be working. Oh, thank you for the care package. How you doing, Tanny? Good to see you. Oh. Might have a bigger drink that time. Pour out another. Welcome to Starship Troopers. You know, we probably could do an actual watch along at some point, just to see what the, you know, maybe after the book, if it'll be part of Henchi's choice. We are watching this pleb read. What the fuck? We need death. I mean, if that's what you want, we could, like I said, if we ever finish this, we could actually do a full-blown watch along. I was going to do it with Lord of the Rings ages back, but I kind of ended up canceling that series. Anywho, let me get back to it. Okay, no rules. Start whenever you like. Zim tossed his baton aside. It started, and it was over. The big recruit was sitting on the ground, holding his left wrist in his right hand. He didn't say anything. Zim bent over him. Broken? Reckon it might be, sir. I'm sorry you hurried me a little. Do you know where the dispensary is? Never mind. Jones, take Breckenridge over to the dispensary. As they left, Zim slapped him on the right shoulder and said quietly, let's try it again in a month or so. I'll show you what happened. I think it was meant to be a private remark, but they were standing about 6 feet in front of where I was slowly freezing solid. Zim stepped back and called out, okay, we've got one man in this company at least. I feel better. Do we have another one? Do we have 2 more? Any 2 of you scrofulous toads think you can stand up to me? I looked back and forth along our ranks. Chicken-livered, spineless... Oh, yes, step out! 2 men who had been side by side in ranks stepped out together. I suppose they'd arranged it in whispers right there. But they also were far down the tall end, so I didn't hear. Zim smiled at them. Names for your next of kin, please? Heinrich. Heinrich what? Heinrich, sir. Bitte. Bitte? It's 2 T's. Thanks for the lurk, I appreciate. I'm digging this. I read this when I read this when I was but a lad. My ex said if we finish this, we could do a watch along. What do you mean, your ex? Alright, Tanny, have a good lurk. He spoke rapidly to the other recruit and added politely, He doesn't speak much standard English yet, sir. Meyer, mein Herr. The second man supplied. That's okay. Lots of them don't speak much of it when they get here. I didn't myself. Tell Meyer not to worry. He'll pick it up. He understands what we're going to do. Jawohl! Agreed Meyer. Certainly, sir. He understands standard, he just can't speak it fluently. Alright. Where did you 2 pick up those face scars? Heidelberg? 9. No, sir. Königsberg. Same thing. Zim had picked up his baton after fighting Breckenridge. He twirled it and asked, perhaps you would each like to borrow one of these? It would not be fair to you, sir. Heinrich answered carefully. Bare hands, if you please. Suit yourself, though I might fool you. Königsberg, eh? Rules? How can there be rules, sir, with 3? An interesting point. Well, let's agree that if eyes are gouged out, they must be handed back when it's over. And tell your corpse brother there that I'm ready now. Start when you like. Zim tossed his baton away. Someone caught it. You joke, sir. We will not gouge eyes. No eye gouging. Agreed. Fire when ready, Gridley. Please? Come on and fight, or get back into ranks. Now, I'm not sure that I saw it happen this way. I may have learned part of it later in training. But here's what I think happened. The 2 moved out on each side of our company commander until they had him completely flanked, but well out of contact. From this position, there's a choice of 4 basic moves for the man working alone. Moves that take advantage of his own mobility and the superior coordination of one man as compared with 2. Sergeant Zim says, correctly, that any group is weaker than a man alone, unless they are perfectly trained to work together. For example, Zim could have fainted at one of them, bounced fast to the other with a disabler, such as a broken kneecap, then finished off the first at his leisure. Instead, he let them attack. Meyer came at him fast, intending to body check and knock him to the ground, I think, while Heinrich would follow through from above, maybe with his boots. That's the way it appeared to start, and here's what I think I saw. Meyer never reached him with that body check. Sergeant Zim whirled to face him while kicking out and getting Heinrich in the belly, and then Meyer was sailing through the air, his lunge helped along with a hearty assist from Zim. But all I'm sure of is that the fight started and there were 2 German boys sleeping peacefully, almost end to end, one face down and one face up. and Zim was standing over them, not even breathing hard. Jones, he said. No, Jones left, didn't he? Mahmoud, let's have the water bucket and stick them back into their sockets. Who's got my toothpick? Holy shit. A few moments later, the two were conscious, wet, and back in ranks. Zim looked at us and inquired gently, anybody else? Or shall we get on with setting up exercises? I didn't expect anybody else, and I doubt if he did. But from down on the left flank, where the shorties hung out, a boy stepped out of ranks, came front and center. Zim looked down at him. Just you? Or do you want to pick a partner? Just myself, sir. As you say. Name? Shizumi, sir. Zim's eyes widened. Any relation to Colonel Shizumi? I have the honor to be his son, sir. Ah, so well. Black belt? No, sir, not yet. I'm glad you qualified that. Well, Shizumi, are we going to use contest rules? Or shall I send for the ambulance? Dark Demon by Kristen Faheen is next read. Whatever I happen to have, I have a whole bunch of books here. Most of them are Terry Pratchett, but I have some Stephen King. Books are not easy to come by these days, or at least specific ones. It's easy to come by a book, it's just, if you want to get something specific, good luck. Especially if it's Pratchett. I'm surprised I've actually got any Pratchett given how hard it is to come by. Especially, you know, used books. Not used books are expensive. Some of my collection of Terry Pratchett, especially Discworld, I've been able to pick up for a matter of dollars. You want to buy them? You want to buy them normally? Pff, good luck. Hope you've got some good good income, because I don't. Fire Dancer would be a banger. I have Stephen King's Firestarter, I believe. I also have Prey. What I'd like to get my hands on is actually It, so I can see what the differences are to the movies. That includes the original movie. I got a bunch of stuff, a lot of which I can't actually read from here. I also have Michael Crichton's original Jurassic Park and The Lost World. Very, very different to the movies. You DM me, I'll send you a few books. I don't know where to send them to. I don't have a PO box. It can be the main course. Oh, shit. I would have to figure out a way to... I'd have to figure out something like a PO box or something. Because I don't want people sending, knowing where I actually live. For obvious reasons. I would appreciate it, though, if you actually are serious about sending some books. But reading will be on Henchi's choice. Right now, it's because we had it as a goal. Attention to a post office enough. Yeah, that's a possibility. I'd have to go talk to them and ask how that works. But yeah, that's something we could possibly do. Right. As you wish, sir, but I think, if I may be permitted an opinion, that contest rules would be more prudent. I don't know just how you mean that, but I agree. Zim tossed his badge of authority aside, then, so help me, they backed off facing each other and bowed. After that, they circled around each other in a half-crouch, making tentative passes with their hands and looking like a couple of roosters. Suddenly they touched, and the little chap was down on the ground and Sergeant Zim was flying through the air over his head. But he didn't land with the dull, breathalyzing, paralyzing thud that Mayer had. He lit, rolling, and was on his feet as fast as Shizumi was and facing him. Banzai! Zim yelled and grinned. Arigato, Shizumi answered and grinned back. They touched again almost without a pause, and I thought the sergeant was going to fly again. He didn't. He slithered straight in. There was a confusion of arms and legs. When the motion slowed down, you could see that Zim was tucking Shizumi's left foot in his right ear. A poor fit. Shizumi slapped the ground with a free hand. Zim let him up at once. They again bowed to each other. Another fall, sir? Sorry, we've got work to do. Some other time, eh? For fun and honor. Perhaps I should have told you your honorable father trained me. So I had already surmised, sir. Another time it is. Zim slapped him hard on the shoulder. Back in rank, soldier. Company! Turkey needs a throne. I think that might do her. Yeah, I definitely could use the throne. We'll see. I have some things that might... I have some stuff that might come at the end of the month. We'll see. If the donathon's still going by then, I'll give you guys a sneak peek on some stuff. If it's done. I've been saying that for years, but it's seeming more and more like it's actually going to happen finally. Then for 20 minutes, we went through calisthenics that left me as dripping hot as I had been shivering cold. Zim led it himself, doing it all with us and shouting the count. He hadn't been mussed with water. He hadn't been mussed that I could see. He wasn't breathing hard as we finished. He never led the exercises after that morning. We never saw him again before breakfast. Rank hath its privileges. But he did that morning, and when it was over and we were all bushed, he led us at a trot to the mess tent, shouting at us the whole way. Step up on the bounce. You're dragging your tails. We always trotted everywhere at Camp Arthur Curry. I never did find out who Curry was, but he must have been a trackman. Breckenridge was already in the mess tent with a cast on his wrist, but thumb and fingers showing. I heard him say, "Nah, just a green stick fracture. I've played a whole quarter with wuss. But you wait, I'll fix him." I had my doubts. Shizumi, maybe. Not that big ape. He simply didn't know when he was outclassed. I disliked Zim from the moment I laid eyes on him. But he had style. Breakfast was alright. All the meals were alright. There was none of that nonsense some boarding schools have of making your life miserable at the table. If you wanted to slump down and shovel it in with both hands, nobody bothered you. Which was good, as meals were practically the only time somebody wasn't riding you. The menu for breakfast wasn't anything like what I had been used to at home. The civilians that waited on us slapped the food around in a fashion that would have made Mother grow pale and leave for her room. But it was hot, and it was plentiful, and the cooking was okay if plain. I ate about 4 times what I normally do, and washed it down with mug after mug of coffee with cream and lots of sugar. I would have eaten a shark without stopping to skin him. Jenkins showed up with Corporal Bronsky behind him, as I was starting on seconds. They stopped for a moment at a table where Zim was eating alone, then Jenkins slumped onto a vacant stool by mine. He looked mighty seedy, pale, exhausted, and his breath rasping. I said, "Yeah, let me pour you some coffee." He shook his head. "You better eat," I insisted. "Some scrambled eggs. I'll go down easily." "Can't eat." "Oh, that dirty, dirty so-and-so." He began cussing out Zim in a low, almost expressionless monotone. All I asked him was to let me go lie down and skip breakfast. Bronsky wouldn't let me. Said I had to see the company commander, so I did, and I told him I was sick. I told him. He just felt my cheek and counted my pulse and told me sick call was 9 o'clock. Wouldn't let me go back to my tent. Oh, that rat. I'll catch him on a dark night, I will. I spooned out some eggs for him anyway and poured coffee. Presently, he began to eat. Sergeant Zim got up to leave while most of us were still eating and stopped by our table. "Jenkins." Yes, sir." "At 0900, muster for sick call and see the doctor." Jenkins' jaw muscles twitched. He answered slowly. "I don't need any pills, sir. I'll get by." 0900. That's an order. He left. Jenkins started his monotonous chant again. Finally, he slowed down, took a bite of eggs, and said something more loudly. I can't help wondering what kind of a mother produced that. I'd just like to have a look at her, that's all. Did he ever have a mother? It was a rhetorical question, but it got answered. The head of our table, several stools away, was one of the instructor corporals. He had finished eating and was smoking and picking his teeth simultaneously. He had evidently been listening. Jenkins, sir? Don't you know about sergeants? Well, I'm learning. They don't have mothers. Just ask any trained private. He blew smoke toward us. They produce by fission, like all bacteria. Oh, that's good. Oh, shit. I hope a FNAF fanfic does not. I don't like FNAF. Kind of answers that one. Sorry. That was the end of chapter 3. All right. The blurb at the top, well, the quote at the top. And the Lord said unto Gideon, the people that are with thee are too many. Now therefore go to, proclaim in the ears of the people, saying, whoever is fearful and afraid, let him return. And there returned of the people 22,000, and there remained 10,000. Then the Lord said unto Gideon, the people are yet too many. Bring them down unto the water, and I will try them for thee there. So he brought down the people unto the water, and the Lord said unto Gideon, every one that lappeth of the water with his tongue as a dog lappeth, him shalt thou set by himself. Likewise everyone that boweth down upon his knees to drink. And the number of them that drank, putting their hand to their mouth, and were 300 men. And the Lord said unto Gideon, by the 300 will I save you. Let all the other people go. Judges 7:2-7. There's quotes at the start of every chapter of some variety. There's one from Thomas Paine later. 2 weeks after we got there, they took our cots away from us. That is to say, we had the dubious pleasure of folding them, carrying them 4 miles and stowing them in a warehouse. By then it didn't matter. The ground seemed much water and quite soft, especially when the alert sounded in the middle of the night and we had to scramble out and play soldier, which it did about 3 times a week. But I could get back to sleep after one of those mock exercises at once. I'd learned to sleep any place, any time. Sitting up, standing up, even marching in ranks. Why, I could even sleep through evening parade standing at attention. Enjoy the music without being waked by it, and wake instantly at the command to pass in review. 2 weeks! 2 weeks and he could sleep anywhere. Bloody hell. It's insane. We'll keep suggesting stuff to see the response. God damn it, Tanny. Command to pass in review. I made a very important discovery at Camp Curry. Happiness consists in getting enough sleep. Just that, nothing more. All the wealthy, happy people you've ever met taking sleeping pills. Mobile infantrymen don't need them. Give a camp trooper a bunk and time to sack out in it, and he's as happy as a worm in an apple, asleep. Theoretically, you are given 8 full hours of sack time every night, and about an hour and a half after evening chow for your own use. But in fact, your night sack time was subject to alerts, to night duty, to field marches, and to acts of God and the whims of those over you, and your evenings, if not ruined by awkward squad or extra duty for minor offenses, were likely to be taken up by shining shoes, doing laundry, Swapping haircuts. Some of us got to be pretty fair barbers, but a clean sweep like a billiard ball was acceptable, and anybody can do that. Not to mention 1,000 other chores having to do with equipment, person, and the demands of sergeants. For example, we learned to answer morning roll call with bathed, meaning you had taken at least one bath since last reveille. A man might lie about it and get away with it. I did a couple times. But at least one in our company who pulled that dodge in the face of convincing evidence that he was not recently bathed, got scrubbed with stiff brushes and floor soap by his squad mates while a corporal instructor chaperoned and made helpful suggestions. But if he didn't have more urgent things to do after supper, you could write a letter, loaf, gossip, discuss the myriad mental and moral shortcomings of sergeants, and dearest of all, talk about the female of the species. We became convinced that there were no such creatures, just mythology created by inflamed imaginations. One boy in our company claimed to have seen a girl over at regimental headquarters. He was unanimously judged a liar and a braggart. Or you could play cards. I learned the hard way not to draw to an inside straight, and I've never done it since. In fact, I haven't played cards since. Or if you actually did have 20 minutes of your very own, you could sleep. That was a choice very highly thought of. We were always several weeks minus on sleep. I may have given the impression that boot camp was made harder than necessary. That is not correct. It was made as hard as possible. And on purpose. It was the firm opinion of every recruit that this was sheer meanness, calculated sadism, fiendish delight of witless morons in making other people suffer. It was not. It was too scheduled, too intellectual, too efficiently and impersonally organized to be cruelty for the sick pleasure of cruelty. It was planned like surgery for purposes as unimpassioned as those of a surgeon. Though I admit that some of the instructors may have enjoyed it. But I don't know that they did. And I do know, now, that the psych officers tried to weed out any bullies in selecting instructors. They looked for skilled and dedicated craftsmen to follow the art of making things as tough as possible for a recruit. A bully is too stupid, himself too emotionally involved, and too likely to grow tired of his fun and slack off to be efficient. Still, there may have been bullies among them, but I've heard that some surgeons, and not necessarily bad ones, enjoy the cutting and the blood which accompanies the humane art of surgery. That's what it was. Surgery. Its immediate purpose was to get rid of, run right out of the outfit, those recruits who were too soft or too babyish ever to make the mobile infantryman. It accomplished that in droves. They darn near ran me out. Our company shrank to platoon size in the first 6 weeks. Some of them were dropped without prejudice and allowed, if they wished, to sweat out their terms in the non-combat services. Others got bad conduct discharges, or unsatisfactory performance discharges, or medical discharges. Usually, you didn't know why a man left unless you saw him leave and he volunteered the information. Some of them got fed up, said so loudly, and resigned, forfeiting forever their chances of franchise. Some, especially the older men, simply couldn't stand the pace physically no matter how hard they tried. I remember one. A nice old geezer named Carruthers. Must have been 35. They carried him away in a stretcher while he was still shouting feebly that it wasn't fair, that he would be back. It was sort of sad because we liked Carruthers. He did try, so we looked the other way and figured we would never see him again. That he was a cinch for a medical discharge in civilian clothes. Only I did see him again long after. he had refused discharge. You don't have to accept a medical, and wound up as third cook in a troop transport. He remembered me, wanted to talk old times. As proud of being an alumnus of Camp Curry as father is of his Harvard accent. He felt that he was a little bit better than the ordinary Navyman. Well, maybe he was. But much more important than the purpose of carving away the fat quickly and saving the government the training costs of those who would never cut it was the prime purpose of making as sure as humanly possible that no cap trooper ever climbed into a capsule for a combat drop unless he was prepared for it. Fit, resolute, disciplined, and skilled. If he is not, it's not fair to the Federation. Certainly not fair to his teammates. And worst of all, it's not fair to him. But was boot camp more cruelly hard than was necessary? All I can say to that is this. The next time I have to make a combat drop, I want the men on my flanks to be graduates of Camp Curry or its Siberium equivalent. Otherwise, I'll refuse to enter the capsule. But I certainly thought it was a bunch of crumbly, vicious nonsense at the time. Little things, when we were there a week. We were issued undress maroons for parade to supplement the fatigues we'd been wearing. Dress and full dress uniforms came much later. I took my tunic back to the issues shed and complained to the supply sergeant. Since he was only a supply sergeant and rather fatherly in manner, I thought of him as a semi-civilian. I didn't know how, as of then, to read the ribbons on his chest, or I wouldn't have dared speak to him. Sergeant, this tunic is too large. My company commander says it fits like a tent. He looked at the garment. Didn't touch it. Really? Yeah, I want the one that fits. He still didn't stir. Let me wise you up, sonny boy. There are just two sizes in this army. Too large and too small. But my company commander, no doubt. What am I gonna do? Oh, it's advice you want. Well, I've got that in stock. New issue just today. Tell you what I'll do. Here's a needle. I'll even give you a spool of thread. You only need a pair of scissors. Razor blade is better. Now you tighten them plenty across the hips, but leave cloth to loose them again across the shoulders. You'll need it later. Sergeant Zim's only comment on my tailoring was, "You can do better than that. 2 hours extra duty." So I did better than that by next parade. Those first 6 weeks were all hardening up and hazing. Lots of parade drill and lots of route march. Eventually, as files dropped. Files? Files, I got you. I was almost reading it as flies. Eventually, as files dropped out and went home or elsewhere, we reached the point where we could do 50 miles in 10 hours on the level. It's good mileage for a good horse, in case you've never used your legs. We rested, not by stopping, but by changing pace. Slow march, quick march, and trot. Sometimes we went out the full distance, bivouacked and ate field rations, slept in sleeping bags, and marched back the next day. One day we started out on an ordinary midday's march. No bed bags on our shoulders, no rations. And we didn't stop for lunch. I wasn't surprised, as I'd already learned to sneak sugar and hard bread and such out of the mess tent and conceal it about my person. But when we kept on marching away from camp in the afternoon, I began to wonder. But I'd learned not to ask silly questions. We halted shortly before dark. 3 companies, now somewhat abbreviated. We formed a battalion parade and marched through it. Without music, guards were mounted, and we were dismissed. I immediately looked up Corporal Instructor Bronsky, because it was a little easier to deal with than the others. And because I felt a certain amount of responsibility. I happened to be, at the time, a recruit corporal myself. These boot chevrons didn't mean much. Mostly the privilege of being chewed out for whatever your squad did, as well as for what you did yourself. They could vanish as quickly as they appeared. Zim had tried out all of the older men as temporary non-coms first, and I had inherited a brassard with chevrons on it a couple of days before when our squad leader had folded up and gone to the hospital. I said, "Corporal Bronsky, what's the straight word? When is chow call?" He grinned at me. "I got a couple of crackers on me. You want me to split them with you?" "Huh. Oh, no, sir. Thank you." I had considerably more than a couple of crackers. I was learning. "No chow call." They didn't tell me either, Sonny. I don't see any copters approaching. Now, if I was you, I'd round up my squad and figure things out. Maybe one of you can hit a jackrabbit with a rock. "Yes, sir. But, well, are we staying here all night? We don't have our bedrolls." His eyes shut up. "No bedrolls? Well, I do declare." He seemed to think it over. Ever seen sheep huddle together in a snowstorm?" "Oh, no, sir." "Try it. They don't freeze. Maybe you won't. Or if you don't care for company, you might walk around all night. Nobody will bother you, as long as you stay inside the posted guards. You won't freeze if you keep moving. Of course, maybe a little tired tomorrow." He grinned again. I saluted and went back to my squad. We divvied up share and share alike, and I came out with less food than I'd started with. Some of those idiots either hadn't sneaked out anything to eat or had eaten all they had while we marched. But a few crackers and a couple of prunes will do a lot to quiet your stomach sounding alert. I know, Serini. I turned those off for the reading. The sheep trick works too. Our whole section, 3 squads, did it together. I don't recommend it as a way to sleep. You're either in the outer layer, frozen on one side and trying to worm your way inside, or you're inside, fairly warm but with everyone else trying to shove his elbows, feet, and halitosis on you. You migrate from one condition to the other all night long in a sort of Brownian movement, never quite waking up and never really sound asleep. All this makes a night about 100 years long. We turned out at dawn to the familiar shout of "Up you come, on the bounce," encouraged by instructors' batons applied smartly on fundaments sticking out of the piles. And then we did setting up exercises. I felt like a corpse, but didn't see how I could touch my toes. But I did, though it hurt. And 20 minutes later, when we hit the trail, I merely felt elderly. Sergeant Zim wasn't even mussed, and somehow the scoundrel had managed to shave. The sun warmed our backs as we marched, and Zim started us singing. Oldies at first, like Le Régiment de Sambre et Meuse and Caissons, and Halls of Montezuma, and then our own Cap Troopers polka, which moves you into quick step and pulls you on into a trot. Sergeant Zim couldn't carry a tune in a sack. All he had was a loud voice. But Breckenridge had a sure, strong lead and could hold the rest of us in the teeth of Zim's terrible false notes. We all felt cocky and covered with spines. But we didn't feel cocky 50 miles later. It had been a long night. It was an endless day. And Zim chewed us out for the way we looked on parade. Several boots got gigged for failing to shave in the 9 whole minutes between the time we fell out after the march and fell back in again for parade. Several recruits resigned that evening, and I thought about it, but didn't because I had those silly boot chevrons and hadn't been busted yet. That night there was a 2-hour alert. But eventually I learned to appreciate the homely luxury of 2 or 3 dozen warm bodies to snuggle up to, because 12 weeks later they dumped me down raw naked in a primitive area of the Canadian Rockies, and I had to make my way 40 miles through mountains. I made it, and hated the army every inch of the way. Yun. Yeah, you nice and comfy? And tried was just expressing the feeling. That's fair, Serini. I wasn't in too bad shape when I checked in there. A couple of rabbits had failed to stay as alert as I was, So I didn't go entirely hungry, nor entirely naked. I had a nice warm thick coat of rabbit fat and dirt on my body and moccasins on my feet, the rabbits having no further use for their skins. It's amazing what you can do with a flake of rock if you have to. I guess our caveman ancestors weren't such dummies as we usually think. The others made it, too, those who were still around to try and didn't resign rather than take the test. All except 2 boys who died trying. Then we all went back into the mountains and spent 13 days finding them, working with copters overhead to direct us and all the best communication gear to help us, and our instructors in powered command suits to supervise and to check rumors, because the mobile infantry doesn't abandon its own while there is any thin shred of hope. And we buried them with full honors to the strains of "This land is ours," with the posthumous rank of PFC. I believe that's private first company? No, private first class. The first of our boot regiment to go that high, because a cap trooper isn't necessarily expected to stay alive. Dying is part of his trade, but they care a lot about how you die. It has to be heads up, on the bounce, and still trying. Breckenridge was one of them, and the other was an Aussie boy I didn't know. They weren't the first to die in training. They weren't the last. End of chapter 4. We're making good headway, actually. You guys enjoying so far? Whoa! Ah, crap. That's gonna wake everybody up. I should have thought of that. Dang it. I was supposed to turn that off. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Welcome, Rosie. Crap. Fuck. Everybody was so comfy. Shit. Hang on. Let me go disable that. I'm sorry. My apologies to everybody who was nice and cozy. Rosie, how you doing? Rosie Fabian VT has rated us for glory. That scared the shit out of me. Yeah, I imagine so. How you doing, Rosie? It's good to see you. I hate Cuphead. Yeah, so did the journalist that couldn't get through the tutorial. Wait. Please tell me you got through the tutorial. Please? You can't be as bad as a journalist. Games journalist, specifically. Also, we are in the process of reading Robert A. Heinlein's Starship Troopers. We're currently up to chapter 5. Making good headway, too. I did. We're struggling on World 2. It's been 6 streams, bro. Hey, look, you got out of the frickin' tutorial. That's what matters. You're already a better gamer. Congratulations. I'm proud of you for getting out of the tutorial. That's what matters. Literally. Not even a laughing matter. If you can't make it out of the tutorial, oh boy. I will never, ever forget watching that journalist try and get out of the frickin' tutorial and then give it a bad review because he sucked. That throughout the whole gaming community was a huge for shame moment. But I hope you had fun, because that's what matters. Come on, you apes, you want to live forever. Exactly. Funnily enough, the book is quite considerably different to the movies. Very, even the Roughneck show The book is very, very different. The stream will of course be up after this if people want to go back and listen. If we don't finish it today, which I don't think we will, we will be putting, I'll be putting it on the Henchie's choice, and if people want a reading stream, that is for them to decide, and that'll be on my Discord after the Donathon is over. The book has power armor. The movie does not. The Roughneck series, however, does have power armor. The Roughneck series is like a mix between the movies and the book. It's still all about the bugs, like the movies, but they actually have power armor and all that stuff. It's pretty badass. Yeah, it's a 3D animated series called Roughneck. So I genuinely recommend going and watching it. It follows Rico, who's still in command after the movie. Is that the 3D show? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Have fun streaming. I'll go lurk. Thank you for the lurk, Rosie. I appreciate it. Also, Lord Prettybeard, how you doing? A delicious fried battered cod fillet. Ooh, that sounds good. Well doused in malt vinegar. Ooh. Then noise made me drop it on the floor. Oh, no! No! Oh. Put the book down a moment. Oh, rest in peace. Rest in peace, delicious cod fillet. You didn't last forever. Or at least until you were eaten. Hope you still eat it though. I hope it doesn't get covered in too much, stuff. I think I saw clips. 3 seconds rule. 3 seconds can actually be as high as 5 seconds, depending on the thing. Also, get some chips, like some proper potato, not fries, the nice chunky ones. Get some actual chips and drizzle a little bit of cider vinegar over that. You'll thank me later. Or lemon. A little bit of lemon. Very nice. I would not combine them. Anyway, chapter 5. He's bound to be guilty, or he wouldn't be here. Starboard gun, fire. Shooting's too good for him. Kick the louse out. Port gun, fire. An ancient shanty used to time saluting guns. That was after we had left Camp Curry, and a lot had happened in between. Combat training, mostly. Combat drill and combat exercises and combat maneuvers. Using everything from bare hands to simulated nuclear weapons. I hadn't known there were so many different ways to fight. Hands and feet to start with, and if you think those aren't weapons, you haven't seen Sergeant Zim and Captain Frankel, our battalion commander, demonstrate la savate. Or la savate? La savate? Or had little Shizumi work you over with just his hands and a toothy grin. Zim made Shizumi an instructor for that purpose at once, and required us to take his orders, although we didn't have to salute him and say, sir. Jeez. Okay. As our ranks thinned down, Zim quit bothering with formations himself, except parade, and spent more and more time in personal instruction, supplementing the corporal instructors. He was sudden death with anything, but he loved knives, made and balanced his own, instead of using the perfectly good general issue ones. He mellowed quite a bit as a personal teacher, too, becoming merely unbearable instead of downright disgusting. He could be quite patient with silly questions. Once, during one of the 2-minute rest periods that was scattered sparsely throughout each day's work, one of the boys, a kid named Hendrick, asked, Sergeant, I guess this knife throwing is fun, but why do we have to learn it? What possible use is it? Well, answered Zim, Suppose all you have is a knife. Maybe not even a knife. What do you do? Just say your prayers and die, or wade in and make him buy it anyhow? Son, this is real. It's not a checker game you can concede if you find yourself too far behind. That's just what I mean, sir. Suppose you aren't armed at all, or just one of those toad stickers, say. And the man you're up against has all sorts of dangerous weapons. There's nothing you can do about it. He's got you licked on Showdown. Zim said almost gently, You've got it all wrong, son. There's no such thing as a dangerous weapon. Huh? Sir? There are no dangerous weapons. There are only dangerous men. We're trying to teach you to be dangerous to the enemy. Dangerous even without a knife. Deadly as long as you still have one hand or one foot and are still alive. If you don't know what I mean, go read Horatius at the Bridge, or The Death of the Bonhomme Richard. They're both in the camp library, but take the case you first mentioned. I'm you, and all you have is a knife. That target behind me, the one you've been missing, number 3, is a sentry armed with everything but an H-bomb. You've got to get him quietly at once, without letting him call for help. Zim turned slightly. Thunk! The knife he hadn't even had in his hand was quivering in the center of target number 3. You see? Best to carry 2 knives. But get him you must, even barehanded. Something still troubling you? Speak up. That's what I'm here for, to answer your questions. Yes, sir. You said the sentry didn't have an H-bomb. But he does have an H-bomb. That's just the point. Well, at least we have, if we're the sentry, and any sentry we're up against is likely to have them too. I don't mean the sentry, I mean the side he's on. I understand you. Well, you see, sir, if we can use an H-bomb, and as you said, it's no checker game, it's real, it's war, and nobody's fooling around. Isn't it sort of ridiculous to go crawling around in the weeds, throwing knives, and maybe getting yourself killed? Or even losing the war? When you've got a real weapon you can use to win? What's the point in a whole lot of men risking their lives with obsolete weapons when one professor type can do so much more than just by pressing a button? Zim didn't answer at once, which wasn't like him at all. Then he said softly, "Are you happy in the infantry, Hendrik? You can resign, you know." Hendrik muttered something. Zim said, "Speak up." "I'm not itching to resign, sir. I'm going to sweat out my term." "I see." "Well, the question you asked is one that a sergeant isn't really qualified to answer. And that one you shouldn't ask me. You're supposed to know the answer before you join up. Or you should. Did your school have a course in history and moral philosophy?" "What? Sure. Yes, sir." "Then you've heard the answer. But I'll give you my own unofficial views on it. If you want to teach a baby a lesson, would you cut its head off?" "Why, no, sir. Of course not. You'd paddle it. There can be circumstances when it's just as foolish to hit an enemy city with an H-bomb as it would be to spank a baby with an axe. War is not violence and killing pure and simple. War is controlled violence for a purpose. The purpose of war is to support your government's decisions by force. The purpose is never to kill the enemy just to be killing him, but to make him do what you want to do. Not killing, but controlled and purposeful violence. But it's not your business or mine to decide the purpose of the control. It's never a soldier's business to decide when or where or how or why he fights. That belongs to the statesmen and the generals. The statesmen decide why and how much. The generals take it from there and tell us where and when and how. We supply the violence. Other people, older and wiser heads, as they say, supply the control, which is as it should be. That's the best answer I can give you. If it doesn't satisfy you, I'll get you a chit to go talk to the regimental commander. If he can't convince you, then go home and be a civilian. Because in that case, you will certainly never make a soldier. Zim bounced to his feet. I think you've kept me talking just a gold brick. Up you come, soldiers, on the bounce. Man stations, on target. Hendrik, you first. This time I want you to throw that knife south of you. South. Get it? Not north. The target is due south of you. I want that knife to go in a general southerly direction, at least. I know you won't hit the target, but see if you can't scare it a little. Don't slice your ear off, don't let go of it, and cut somebody behind you. Just keep what tiny mind you have fixed on the idea of south. Ready? On target, let fly. Hendrik missed it again. We trained with sticks. We trained with wire. Lots of nasty things you can improvise with a piece of wire. We learned what can be done with really modern weapons, and how to do it, and how to service and maintain the equipment. Simulated nuclear weapons and infantry rockets and various sorts of gas and poison and incendiary and demolition, as well as other things maybe best not discussed. But we learned a lot of obsolete weapons too. Bayonets on dummy guns, for example, and guns that weren't dummies too, but were almost identical to the infantry rifle of the 20th century. I'm reading that as, sorry, that's not 20th, it's XX century. But because Roman numerals, I read it as 20, it's not. It's XX. They're trying to keep it vague. Much like the sports rifles used in hunting game. Except that we fired nothing but solid slugs. Alloy jacket lead bullets. Both at targets on measured ranges and at surprise targets on booby-trapped skirmish runs. This was supposed to prepare us to learn to use any armed weapon and to train us to be on the bounce. Alert, ready for anything. Well, I suppose it did. I'm pretty sure it did. We used these rifles in field exercises to simulate a lot of deadlier and nastier aimed weapons too. We used a lot of simulation, we had to. An explosive bomb or grenade against material or personnel would explode just enough to put out a lot of black smoke. Another sort of gave off a gas that would make you sneeze and weep. That told you that you were dead or paralyzed. And was nasty enough to make you careful about anti-gas precautions. To say nothing of the chewing out you got if you were caught by it. We got still less sleep. More than half the exercises were held at night with snoopers and radar and audio gear and such. The rifles used to simulate aimed weapons were loaded with blanks except 1 in 500 rounds at random, which was a real bullet. Dangerous? Yes and no. It's dangerous just to be alive, and a non-explosive bullet probably won't kill you unless it hits you in the head or the heart, or maybe not then. What that 1 in 500 for real did was to give us a deep interest in taking cover, especially as we knew that some of the rifles were being fired by instructors who were crack shots and actually trying their best to hit you if the round happened to not be a blank. They assured us that they would not intentionally shoot a man in the head, but accidents do happen. This friendly assurance wasn't very reassuring. That 500th bullet turned tedious exercises into large-scale Russian roulette. You stop being bored the very first time you hear a slug go wheet past your ear, before you hear the crack of the rifle. But we did slack down anyhow, and word came down from the top that if we didn't get on the bounce, the incident of real ones would be changed to 1 in 100. And if that didn't work, to 1 in 50. I don't know whether a change was made or not. No way to tell. But I do know we tightened up again, because a boy in the next country got creased across his buttocks with a live one, producing an amazing scar and a lot of half-witty comments and a renewed interest by all hands in taking cover. We laughed at this kid for getting shot where he did, but we all knew it could have been his head, or our own heads. The instructors who were not firing rifles did not take cover. They put on white shirts and walked around upright with their silly canes, apparently calmly certain that even a recruit would not intentionally shoot an instructor, which may have been overconfidence on the part of some of them. Still, the chances were 500 to 1 that even a shot aimed at with murderous intent would not be live, and the safety factor increased still higher because the recruit probably couldn't shoot that well anyhow. A rifle's not an easy weapon. It's got no target-seeking qualities at all. I understand that even back in the days when wars were fought and decided with just such rifles, it used to take several thousand fired shots to average killing one man. This seems impossible, but the military histories agree that it is true. Apparently most shots weren't really aimed, but simply acted to force the enemy to keep his head down and interfere with his shooting. In any case, we had no instructors wounded or killed by rifle fire. No trainees were killed either by rifle bullets. The deaths were all from other weapons or things, some of which could turn around and bite you if you didn't do things by the book. Well, one boy did manage to break his neck taking cover too enthusiastically when they first started shooting at him, but no bullet touched him. However, by a chain reaction, this matter of rifle bullets and taking cover brought me to my lowest ebb at Camp Curry. In the first place, I'd been busted out of my boot chevrons, not over what I did, but over something one of my squad did when I wasn't even around, which I pointed out. Bronski told me to button my lip, so I went to see Zim about it. He told me coldly that I was responsible for what my men did regardless, and tacked on 6 hours of extra duty besides busting me for having spoken to him about it without Bronski's permission. Then I got a letter that upset me a lot. My mother finally wrote to me. Then I sprained a shoulder in my first drill with powered armor. They've got those practice suits rigged so that the instructor can cause casualties in the suit at will. By radio control. I got dumped and hurt my shoulder. This put me on light duty with too much time to think at a time when I had many reasons, it seemed to me, to feel sorry for myself. Because of light duty, I was ordered that day in the battalion office, commander's office. I was eager at first, for I'd never been there before and wanted to make a good impression. I discovered that Captain Frankel didn't want zeal. He wanted me to sit still, say nothing, and not bother him. This left me time to sympathize with myself, for I didn't dare go to sleep. And suddenly, shortly after lunch, I wasn't a bit sleepy. Sergeant Zim came in, followed by 3 men. Zim was smart and neat as usual, but the expression on his face made him look like death on a pale horse, and he had a mark on his right eye that looked as if it might be shaping up into a shiner, which is impossible, of course. Of the other 3, the one in the middle was Ted Hendrick. He was dirty. Well, the company had been on a field exercise. They don't scrub those prairies and they don't scrub those prairies and you spend a lot of your time snuggling up to the dirt. But his lip was split and there was blood on his chin, and on his shirt and his cap was missing. He looked wild-eyed. The men on each side of him were boots. They each had rifles. Hendrick did not. One of them was from my squad, a kid named Levy. They seemed excited and pleased and slipped me a wink when nobody was looking. Captain Frankel looked surprised. "What is this, Sergeant?" Zim stood frozen straight and spoke as if he were reciting something by rote. "Sir, each company commander reports to the battalion commander. Discipline. Article 9107. Disregard of tactical command and doctrine. The team being in simulated combat. Article 9120. Disobedience of orders. Same conditions. Captain Franco looked puzzled. You're bringing this to me, Sergeant. Officially. And we'll hold there for a moment, because I need to go to the bathroom. Okay, let's continue, shall we? Manya, hello, Manya. Lovely to see you. Get my headphones back on so we got the music playing, if they would get on my head. There we are. Alright, where were we? Ah, yes, bringing this to me, soldier. Sergeant, I should say. I don't see how a man can manage to look as embarrassed as Zim looked and still have no expression of any sort on his face or voice. Oh shit. Swishy, you have a lovely sweep. Have a lovely sleep. Would you please read Neuromancer next? I don't know what that is and I don't have it available. I'm literally reading an actual paperback book. With a light pointing directly at it. Lovely to see you, Manya. Sir, if the captain pleases, the man refused administrative discipline. He insisted on seeing the battalion commander. I see. A bedroll lawyer. Well, I still don't understand it, Sergeant, but technically that's his privilege. What was the tactical command and doctrine? A freeze, sir. I glanced at Hendrik, thinking, oh, he's going to catch it. And a freeze? Okay, hang on. I gotta cough properly. Have a lovely sweep, everybody. Glad you came to listen. And if you're falling asleep to me reading, well, that's just fine as well. I take it as a badge of honor that I am able to, you know, help people sleep. Nighty night. I bought House of Leaves and I still need to finish it. Fair. In a freeze, you hit dirt, taking any cover you can, fast, and then freeze. Don't move at all, not even twitch an eyebrow, until released. Or you can freeze when you're already in cover. They tell stories about men who had been hit while in freeze and had died slowly but without ever making a sound or a move. Frankel's brows shot up. Second part? Same thing, sir. After breaking freeze, failing to return to it on being so ordered. Captain Frankel looked grim. Name? Zim answered. Hendrik, TC, sir. Recruit Private RP 7960924. Very well. Hendrik, you are deprived of all privileges for 30 days and restricted to your tent when not on duty or at meals. Subject only to sanitary necessities. You will serve 3 hours extra duty each day under the corporal of the guard, 1 hour to be served just before tamps, 1 hour just before reveille? Reveille? Is it reveille or reveille? I'm just reading as reveille because EI. 1 hour at the time of the noonday meal and in place of it. Your evening meal will be bread and water, as much bread as you can eat. You will serve 10 hours extra duty each Sunday, the time to be adjusted to permit you to attend divine services if you so elect. I thought, oh my, he threw the book. Captain Frankel went on. Hendrik, the only reason you're getting off so lightly is that I am not permitted to give you any more than that without convening a court-martial. And I don't want to spoil your company's record. Dismissed. Nighty-night. He dropped his eyes back to the papers on his desk, the incident already forgotten. And Hendrik yelled, "You didn't hear my side of it!" The captain looked up. "Oh, sorry. You have a side? You're darn right I do. Sergeant Zim's got it in for me. He's been writing me all day long from the time I got here. That's his job," the captain said coldly. "Do you deny the 2 charges against you?" "No, but he didn't tell you I was lying on an anthill." Frankel looked disgusted. "Oh, so you would get yourself killed and perhaps your teammates as well because of a few little ants?" "Not just a few, there were hundreds of them, stingers." "So, young man, let me put you straight. Had it been a nest of rattlesnakes, you would still have been expected and required to freeze." Frankel paused. "Have you anything at all to say in your own defense?" Hendrik's mouth was open. "I certainly do. He hit me. He laid hands on me. The whole bunch of them are always strutting around with those silly batons, whacking you across the fanny, punching you between the shoulders, and telling you to brace up, and I put up with it. But he hit me with his hands. He knocked me down to the ground and yelled, 'Freeze, you stupid jackass.' How about that?" Captain Frankel looked down at his hands, looked up again at Hendrik. "Young man, you are under a misapprehension very common among civilians. You think that your superior officers are not permitted to lay hands on you, as you put it. Under purely social conditions, that's true. Say if we happen to run across each other in a theater or a shop, I would have no more right, as long as you treated me with the respect due my rank, to slap your face than you have to slap mine. But in line of duty, the rule is entirely different." The captain swung around in his chair and pointed at some loose leaf books. "There are the laws under which you live. You can search every article in those books, every court-martial case which has arisen under them, and you will not find one word which says or implies that your superior officer may not lay hands on you or strike you in any other matter in line of duty. Hendrik, I could break your jaw, and I simply would be responsible to my own superior officers as to the appropriate necessity of the act. But I would not be responsible to you. I could do more than that. There are circumstances under which a superior officer, commissioned or not, is not only permitted but required to kill an officer or a man under him without delay or perhaps without warning, and, far from being punished, be commended. To put a stop to pusillanimous conduct in the face of the enemy, for example." The captain tapped on his desk. "Now, about those batons, they have 2 uses. First, they mark the men in authority. Second, we expect them to be used on you, to touch you up and keep you on the bounce. You can't possibly be hurt with one, not the way that they're used. At most, they sting a little. They have thousands of words. Say you don't turn out on the bounce of reveille. No doubt the duty corporal could wheedle you. Say, Pretty pleased with sugar on it. Inquire if you'd like breakfast in bed this morning. If we could spare one career corporal just to nursemaid you. We can't. So he gives your bedroll a whack and trots on down the line, applying the spur where needed. Of course, he could simply kick you, which would be just as legal and nearly as effective. The general in charge of training and discipline thinks that it is more dignified, both for the duty corporal and for you, to snap a late sleeper out of his fog with the impersonal rod of authority. And so do I. Not that it matters what you or I think about it. This is the way we do it. Captain Frankel sighed. Hendrik, I have explained these matters to you because it is useless to punish a man unless he knows why he is being punished. You've been a bad boy. I say boy because you quite evidently aren't a man yet. Although we'll keep trying. Surprisingly bad boy in view of the stage of your training. Nothing you have said is any defense, nor even any mitigation. You don't seem to know the score, nor have any idea of your duty as a soldier. So tell me in your own words why you feel mistreated. I want to get you straightened out. There might even be something in your favor, though I confess that I cannot imagine what it could be. I had a sneak look or two at Hendrik's face while the captain was chewing him out. Somehow his quiet, mild words were a worse chewing out than any Zim had ever given us. Hendrik's expression had gone from indignation to blank astonishment to sullenness. Speak up, Frankel added sharply. Well, we were ordered to freeze and I hit the dirt and I found I was on the sandhill. So I got to my knees to move over a couple of feet and I was hit from behind and knocked flat and he yelled at me. And I bounced up and popped him one and he... Stop. This is actually said in all caps and in bold. Stop. Captain Frankel was out of his chair and standing 10 feet tall, though he's hardly taller than I am. He stared at Hendrik. You struck your company commander. Huh? I said so, but he hit me first from behind. I didn't even see him. I don't take that off of anybody. I popped him and then he hit me again and then silence. Hendrik stopped. Then he added, I just want out of this lousy outfit. I think we can accommodate you, and quickly too. Just give me a piece of paper. I'm resigning. One moment, Sergeant Zim. One moment. Sergeant Zim? Yes, sir. Zim hadn't said a word for a long while. He just stood, eyes front and rigid as a statue. Nothing moving but his twitching jaw muscles. I looked at him now and saw that it certainly was a shiner, a beaut. Hendrik must have caught him just right. But he hadn't said anything about it and Captain Frankel hadn't asked. Maybe he'd just assumed Zim had run into a door and would explain it if he felt like it later. Have the pertinent articles been published to your company as required? Yes, sir. Published and logged every Sunday morning. I know they have. I asked simply for the record. Just before church call every Sunday, they lined us up. I read aloud the disciplinary articles out of the laws and regulations of the military forces. They were posted on the bulletin board too, outside the orderly tent. Nobody paid them much mind. It was just another drill. You could stand still and sleep through it. About the only thing we noticed, if we noticed anything, was what we called the 31 ways to crash land. After all, the instructors see to it that you soaked up all the regulations you need to know through your skin. The crash landings were a worn-out joke, like Reveal oil or tent jacks. They were the 31 capital offenses. Now and then somebody boasted or accused somebody else of having found a 32nd way. Always something preposterous and usually obscene. Striking a superior officer. It suddenly wasn't amusing any longer. Popping Zim? Hang a man for that.
Why, almost everybody in the company had taken a swing at Sergeant Zim, and some of us had even landed. When he was instructing us in hand-to-hand combat, he would take us on after the other instructors had worked us over, and we were beginning to feel cocky and pretty good at it. Then he would put the polish on. Why, shucks, I once saw Shijumi knock him unconscious. Bronski threw water on him, and Zim got up and grinned and shook hands and threw Shijumi right over the horizon. Captain Frankel looked around, mentioned at me. You, flash regimental headquarters. I did it, all thumbs. Stepped back when an officer's face came on and let the captain take the call. Adjutant, the face said. Frankel said crisply, 2nd Battalion Commander's respects to the regimental commander. I request and require an officer to sit as a court. The face said, when do you need him, Ian? As quickly as you can get him here. Right away. I'm pretty sure Jake is in his HQ. Article and name? Captain Frankel identified Hendrik and quoted an article number. The face in the screen whistled and looked grim. On the bounce, Ian. If I can't get Jake, I'll be over myself. Just as soon as I tell the old man. Captain Frankel turned to Zim. This escort, are they witnesses? Yes, sir. Did his section leader see it? Zim barely hesitated. I think so, sir. Get him. Anybody out that way in a powered suit? Yes, sir. Zim used the phone while Frankel said to Hendrik, what witnesses do you wish to call in your defense? Huh? I don't need any witnesses. He knows what he did. Just hand me a piece of paper. I'm getting out of here. All in good time. In very fast time, it seemed to me, less than 5 minutes later, Corporal Jones came bouncing up in a command suit, carrying Corporal Mahmoud in his arms. He dropped Mahmoud and bounced away just as Lieutenant Speaksma came in. He said, afternoon, Captain. Accused and witnesses here? All set. Take it, Jake. Recorder on? It is now. Very well. Hendrik, step forward. Hendrik did, sir, looking puzzled as if his nerve was beginning to crack. Lieutenant Speaksma said briskly, Field Court-Martial convened by order of Major FX Malloy, commanding 3rd Training Regiment, Camp Arthur Curry, under General Order No. 4, issued by the Commanding General, Training and Discipline Command, pursuant to the laws and regulations of the Military Forces, Terran Federation. Remanding Officer, Captain Ian Frankel, M.I. assigned to and commanding 2nd Battalion, 3rd Regiment. The Court, Lieutenant Jacques Speaksma, M.I. assigned to and commanding 1st Battalion. 3rd Regiment. Accused, Hendrik Theodore C. Recruit Private RP 7960924, Article 9080. Charge, striking his superior officer, the Terran Federation then being in a state of emergency. The thing that got me was how fast it went. I found myself suddenly appointed an officer of the court and directed to remove the witnesses and have them ready. I didn't know how I would remove Sergeant Zim if he didn't feel like it, but he gathered Mahmoud and the 2 boots by eye, and they all went outside, out of earshot. Zim separated himself from the others and simply waited. Mahmoud sat down on the ground and rolled a cigarette, which he had to put out. He was the first one called. In less than 20 minutes, all 3 of them had testified, all telling much the same story Hendrik had. Zim wasn't called at all. Lieutenant Speaksma said to Hendrik, do you wish to cross-examine the witnesses? The court will assist you if you so wish. No. Stand at attention and say, sir, when you address the court. No, sir, he added. I want a lawyer. The law does not permit counsel and field courts-martial. Do you wish to testify in your own defense? You are not required to do so, and in view of the evidence thus far, the court will take no judicial notice if you choose not to do so. But you are warned that any testimony that you give may be used against you, and that you will be subject to cross-examination. Hendrik shrugged. I haven't anything to say. What good would it do me? The court repeats. Will you testify in your own defense? No, sir. The court must demand of you one technical question. Was the article under which you are charged published to you before the time of the alleged offense of which you stand accused? You may answer yes, no, or stand mute. You are responsible for your answer under Article 9167, which relates to perjury. The accused stood mute. Very well. The court will reread the article of the charge aloud to you and again ask you that question. Article 9080. Any person in the military forces who strikes or assaults or attempts to strike or assault. Oh, I suppose they did. They read a lot of stuff every Sunday morning. Whole long list of things you couldn't do. Was or was not that particular article read to you? Yes, sir, it was. Very well. Having declined to testify, do you have any statement to make in mitigation or extenuation? Sir, do you want to tell the court anything about it? Any circumstance which you think might possibly affect the evidence already given, or anything which might lessen the alleged offense? Such things as being ill or under drugs or medication. You are not under oath at this point. You may say anything at all which you think may help. What the court is trying to find out is, does anything about this matter strike you as being unfair? If so, why? I would actually, hang on, pause. I would argue that the stinging ants very much got to him. The level of pain those can, that some ants can hit you with, like bullet ants and stuff, is so immense. Yeah, I could see that putting him out of his mind. But he's not smart enough by the looks of it. Huh? Of course it is. Everything about it's unfair. He hit me first. You heard him. He hit me first. Anything more? Huh? No, sir. Isn't that enough? The trial is completed. Recruit Private Theodore C. Hendrick, stand forth. Lieutenant Speaksmer had been standing at attention the whole time. Now Captain Frankel stood up. The place suddenly felt chilly. Private Hendrick, you are found guilty as charged. My stomach did a flip. They were going to do it to him. They were going to do the Danny Deaver to Ted Hendrick. And I had eaten breakfast beside him just this morning. The court sentences you, he went on, while I felt sick, to 10 lashes and bad conduct discharge. Hendrick gulped. I want to resign. The court does not permit you to resign. The court wishes to add that your punishment is light simply because this court possesses no jurisdiction to assign greater punishment. The authority which remanded you specified a field court-martial. Why it so chose, this court will not speculate. But had you been remanded for general court-martial, it seems certain that the evidence before this court would have caused a great court to sentence you to hang by the neck until dead. You are very lucky, and the remanding authority has been most merciful. Lieutenant Speaksmer paused, and then went on. The sentence will be carried out at the earliest hour after the convening authority has reviewed and approved the record. If it does so approve, court is adjourned. Remove and confine him. The last was addressed to me. I didn't actually have to do anything about it, other than phone the guard tent and then get a receipt for him when they took him away. At afternoon's sick call, Captain Frankel took me off orderly and sent me to the doctor, who sent me back to duty. I got back to my company just in time to dress and fall in for parade, and to get gigged by Zim for spots on uniform. Well, he had a bigger spot over one eye, but I didn't mention it. Somebody had set up a big post in the parade ground just back of where the adjutant stood. When it came time to publish the orders, instead of routine order of the day or other trivia, they published Hendrick's court-martial. Then they marched him out, between 2 armed guards with his hands cuffed together in front of him. I had never seen a flogging. Back home, while they do it in public, of course, they do it back of the federal building, and Father had given me strict orders to stay away from there. I tried disobeying him on it once, but it was postponed and I never tried to see one again. Once is too many. The guards lifted his arms and hooked the manacles over a big hook high up on the post. Then they took his shirt off, and it turned out that it was fixed so that it could come off, and he didn't have an undershirt. The adjutant said crisply, "Carry out the sentence of the court." A corporal instructor from some other battalion stepped forward with the whip. The sergeant of the guard made the count. It's a slow count. 5 seconds between each one, and it seems much longer. Ted didn't let out a peep until the third, then he sobbed. The next thing I knew, I was staring up at Corporal Bronsky. He was slapping me and looking intently at me. He stopped and asked, "Okay now?" "Alright, back in ranks, on the bounce. We're about to pass and review." We did so and marched back to our company area. I didn't eat much dinner, but neither did a lot of them. Nobody said a word to me about fainting. I found out later I wasn't the only one. A couple of dozen of us had passed out. End chapter 5. Holy shit. Dude, holy shit. That is intense. And it's not like he couldn't have tried to use the ants, you know, as an excuse, but he very much didn't. He didn't do it much of anything. I guess I'll use a land card as a bookmark. Hopefully one day we come back to this, because this is enjoyable. It is a lot different to the movies and the series and the games and all that jazz. Wow. I can see why people, you know, very much suggest actually reading through this one. It's pretty intense. I'm surprised. But for now, I think it might be time to head on off. So, which direction shall we go? Then I gotta make a phone call before I get in trouble. Let's see. What have we got? Who can I cut and run on? Huh. Okay. Let's send you all to a relatively chill streamer. We're gonna send you all to Midnight, who's currently collabing Peak with Lily Darkmoon. So let's go bolster her. Give her some peeps. And I'll wish you all a lovely night and all that jazz. Let me also do this. Pause fill. There we go. That pauses our count. And yeah, thank you all for coming. It's been lovely. And I'm sure many of you did not expect a chill stream, but you know, reading a book. I mean, I could do it all crazy like, but it's reading. I like you know, I've tried doing it crazy like before, and I had more fun this way. So I'll wish you all a good night. Have a lovely one. Thank you for being here. Catch you later. Da, 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 da.